Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a interesting Wednesday, a Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll be taking your questions throughout as we do, but it is a jam-packed Wall Pass Wednesday. You will hear from Tony Annan here in about 30 minutes. You'll hear from Mike Conti in about an hour. You'll hear from Chris Allen of Atlanta United 2 at about 10:30. And we'll be getting into a bunch of other things because there's a bunch of news, a bunch of rumor, a bunch of innuendo, and the latest news led to my teaser question this morning. River Plate's appeal to have 2 additional players added to their 50-man roster that they only put 32 names on. That was denied, as it should have been, by CONMEBOL. I think CONMEBOL gets that one right because you had 18 spots that you didn't use. You really can't complain too much. So they have no goalkeepers eligible for tonight's match because all 4 goalkeepers among that 32 have tested positive for COVID. So Enzo Perez, who is injured and has a hamstring injury, is going to be the goalkeeper tonight for River Plate. And my question was, what field player would you most like to see in goal? Now, John came in as we were getting ready for the show and said Peter Crouch, and I don't think just because he's tall is the right approach, because can he get down to shots? Is he quick enough to get to the corners? I'm not so sure. I would go for a field player going in goal. And look, Rivers only got 11 guys, so they don't have a whole lot of options here, and Perez can't run, so he's got to play in goal, I guess. Yeah. If you have options and you think about it, I think you're looking at what Seattle did with Alex Roldan. I think you're looking at, in previous years, I remember the LA Galaxy doing this with Mike McGee. Yep. You're looking at somebody who is quick and small because most shots are going to be lower. I want somebody who can move around rather than somebody I think could come out and deal with a cross when they have no training in how to come out and deal with a cross. I don't want them coming out to deal with a cross. Stand on your line, deal with shots, use your feet as much as you can. But no, don't get into shenanigans with thinking you're going to come out like Oliver Kahn and start punching things. Brooks Lennon is mine for Atlanta United. I said that before. Okay. If you had another situation, like if Rocco had gotten hurt, I mean, you can dispute it if you want, John. You sound like you have something to say, so go ahead. But Brooks Lennon is mine because he's crafty.
I'm listening. No.
You said, okay, so who would you put? Who would it be? Who do you want to see?
I'm still processing because if Jarrett and I, Jarrett and I are thinking Peter Crouch. And
I don't think Jarrett said Peter Crouch. Hold up.
Listening to the evidence.
John. Hold up. Jarrett, did you say Peter Crouch?
I think I'm the one that said it before. Did I say it before John? And you might have attributed that to John.
I attributed it to John, so that's my fault. So then you're both wrong. How about that? You're both wrong.
Cool. I like being entertained by insanity.
I'm a jerk, so what's the difference? You're both wrong. I just don't think it works with a tall guy like that. I don't think so. Anybody else you would like to see in goal?
Joseph.
Yeah.
He'd be good. I don't want to take him off the field, but yeah, I could absolutely see Joseph doing a good job in goal.
Yeah, he definitely would not be shy in barking out instructions for folks.
Jesus.
No, but again, like that part doesn't really apply because he doesn't know what instructions to bark. Like he's never played it. I think those are elements that you can't really look at in this scenario. Like, how is he going to know how to organize a defense? He's never done that. So that one doesn't. I think that's why you have to really get down to what are you looking for in this emergency situation. You're looking for somebody to not screw it up. Basically, you're looking for somebody to be able to give you as much as they possibly can realistically. And like dealing with crosses, not realistic. Organizing the defense, not realistic. Those things just don't fit for me.
And how aggressive do you want a field player to be in goal?
That's the tough part. I mean, if they can be aggressive in terms of sweeper keeper stuff, okay. If they can come out of their box and feel comfortable on the ball in situations, okay, that's fine. That's good because that doesn't take you out of your comfort zone. I don't want them like being aggressive in dealing with crosses. I don't want them to deal with that at all. I want them to stay on their line and just react. Like, that would be one of my biggest instructions I would give
stay
to
at
that
home.
player. Stay at home on crosses. Try to deal with anything that comes off of a head or off of a deflection. Coming out to like close angles on shots, I'm going to let them feel that one out. That's a tough one to call because it's hard to manage that. I would let them feel that out. I wouldn't want to put too much into their head. The two things I would say, and it would depend on who I have in the back, but if I've got anybody who is the semblance of a veteran as a defender, listen to them. They're going to organize everything. And 2, don't even think about coming off your line on crosses. Stay in your 6 on crosses.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to overwhelm the person either because they're already going to be feeling enough pressure.
Folks in the Twitch pitch are saying Miles.
Miles would be good. He's got good hands, you would assume, because he grew up playing basketball as well. He's a good... I think he's quick. He's fast, but does that translate to being quick on the line side to side? I would rather... And I think you see this often. Now, Seattle went a different way with Roldan. He's a defender, but he's an outside back, typically a midfielder. I think what the Galaxy did when they put Mike McGee in goal is the way I would tend to go if I had somebody that I thought fit. I don't want to disrupt the back line if I've already got a disrupted goalkeeper. Right. So I would want Miles in his normal position. I wouldn't want to change that. So late in a game, and some of it's going to depend on the situation. River tonight, River's starting this way. So you don't really have a lot of options. You're just having to pick somebody, and you got a player who can't run, so this is where you're dealing. Late in a game where you have a goalkeeper get injured, you have no subs. If you have a lead, you're probably going to sacrifice one of your attackers, and you're going to make a decision on who that's going to be. Right. And put them in goal. If you are chasing something, you're probably going to sacrifice an outside back. And again, this is going to depend on the personality and characteristics of your team, but that would be part of it for me. That would be part of the decision-making process.
Tafka on Twitter is saying that Miles has the hands for it, and as a defender, he could organize the defense as well. And then he shrugged shoulders emoji.
Yeah, no, he could. I just wouldn't want to disrupt in front of him because, again, I don't want Miles coming off his line dealing with crosses. I'd rather have Miles heading things to deal with crosses. Johannes goes Sosa. That could work. Pretty quick side to side. You wouldn't disrupt the back line as much with Sosa there, so that could work. I just don't want to disrupt that back line. It's already hard enough for this guy going in goal who's never played it. I want to keep the back line as stable as possible.
Right. Yeah, that's the obviously you're looking at game situation when it happens, those kinds of things. But yeah, if things are already disheveled with you losing something and you need to have your keeper be a position player, you want to keep the guys in front as stable as possible. So yeah, I see your point there.
Look, so we've had some fun with this with, who would go in goal in an ideal situation. What River's dealing with is not an ideal situation. They only have 11 players eligible. Perez is coming back to make it 11 from injury, and he'll go in goal. They have no subs. They have over 20 people who have tested positive, players and staff. Bernd asked the question, and I don't have the answer. I don't know why, and I haven't really seen this discussed. How is the team not in quarantine? 2 cases per team in MLS or Bundesliga made them cancel games and quarantine teams for 2 weeks. River played on Sunday in domestic play. This is CONMEBOL international play, and there was a lot of talk about how this stuff would go when they came back to play the Libertadores last fall. And that's why they added the 50-man rosters, was to not have situations where games would get canceled, because they were at that time up against it getting the tournament finished, and they ultimately didn't get it finished. The Club World Cup had to get pushed back, then they got it finished, and you got everything done. Now, because of that, you're in a condensed group stage where you're playing 6 group games in 6 weeks. So there's not really a lot of room before the June qualifiers, before the Copa America, which is a whole other discussion about should that be played, to get this group stage done. I don't know the calendar and how much room they have with other domestic competitions to balance to actually postpone games.
Yeah.
And I think they've decided they'd rather do this than not forfeit. I don't know exactly how that goes. The public health side of it, Bernd, I do not know in Argentina. We've talked about it a little bit on our Discord as people have different bits of information about various South American countries. There are a few who have done a better job than the rest in terms of dealing with COVID, but also vaccine rollouts. Argentina is not one of those that's done really well, and you're starting to see this now. I have not heard really anything about if anybody knows what happened with River and how it got to this point. You have to assume, and this came up whether it was Notre Dame football, Jared, or any of the other teams that have had these kinds of outbreaks, at some point protocols that were in place to prevent these things from happening broke down, and you had a spread within a team. And now it's going to make River, who's not guaranteed a spot yet in the knockout rounds, it's going to put them at a severe disadvantage tonight. And, as Bernd says and others have said, why are they even playing the game?
I don't know why they're playing the game. I mean, this is, as long as I'm going to go back to the same point we talked about Monday night. If we're going to talk about River only having 11 field players, we need to talk about a River leaving 15 blank spots on their roster.
Yeah, 18.
18.
18, thank you. Even more.
Uh-huh.
You left that many blank spots on your roster unnecessarily for God knows what reason. You put yourself in a situation that you knew was going to be a possibility. Sure, no one's planning to have most of your team be quarantined, but it is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just careless on their part.
Is that a fireable offense?
Depends on who made the decision.
Yeah, it's not an easy one to say.
Yeah, it's like, because I don't know that Gallardo made that decision. I mean, so I feel. I mean, if he's not the one registering players and having the final say on it, then his hands are kind of tied by it. But I mean, that's the front office. Everybody in the front office there, deserves criticism for it. I'm happy to go that route.
Yeah, absolutely on that. There has been a little bit of speculation that Gallardo is taking some heat on this from different folks. The president of the club is very critical of CONMEBOL, which I don't think he has really any leg to stand on here. Outside of making them play the game, which is not his argument.
The rules and all the tools to have enough people.
Yep. No,
it's like getting mad at a parent who told you not to kick a hornet's nest.
100%. No, absolutely 100%. I totally agree with you. They knew going in that these games, and I think a lot of people pointed early on at Gallardo's comments about, well, if there's a bunch of positives, the games will get postponed. And that's why he didn't fill a big roster last year. Now, that was before the return of the competition last year, not this year, but he had the same mentality. I would assume that CONMEBOL made it clear that, no, we don't want to postpone games. We are not going to postpone games. There's not room to postpone games in the calendar. They will get played. That's why we are allowing you to have 50 on your roster in case of an issue.
Yeah.
CONMEBOL, I mean, that's implied. I would assume they made that clear. But, yeah, this is on River, in my opinion, on two fronts. How did you have this happen? Did players just go on their own? And, of course, there's speculation about an asado, of course. But did players go on their own and do something outside of the team that they shouldn't have done? Or was there a breakdown of protocols inside team activities, and whether it's travel, whether it's training, what have you, to where somebody tests positive and then it spreads because you're not taking care of things inside the building, inside the training facility? I don't know. We don't know that. I don't know if we're ever going to really know that. But this is the situation that River's in now. And it's a mess. Bernd, that was not the intent. It wasn't to have two separate rosters in terms of a senior and a reserve. I think some teams functioned that way with the 50-man roster, was to keep a reserve group separate that was not mixing with the first group in case of an issue like this. But I think different teams did it different ways. More than anything, it was just because by nature, you would have, the way these teams are structured, 20 to 25 guys, maybe 30 mixing regularly with the first team. That other 20 would be separate just because of the way they function. They would be separate because they train separate with the reserve team or even the academy team. So they would just be separate because of the way the club works rather than a design, of having a 50-man roster. So they blew it. I mean, there's just River Plate blew it on a bunch of different fronts, and now they have to deal. And there's not a lot that they can do. They have a mismatched group. It looks like they're going to have 5 defenders because that's just who they have available. And you've got Enzo Perez with a bulky hamstring in goal. And you've just got to sit back and play it out. A draw's fine for them. They should be okay with a draw, but then you've got another game next week in Libertadores, and you hope that you get everybody back, and that's no guarantee either.
I mean, are both of you guys just kind of seeing this as a glorified kickabout and just trying to get out of town after 90 minutes, or what are you looking at?
It's not a glorified kickabout because the other team's not having a glorified kickabout. You got to be crazy. Colombian team coming in to play River where they are damaged.
They have 11 players. The first time someone gets a chance to go 2 feet in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Independiente Santa Fe, who's playing to try to get into the next round because they have a legitimate shot, especially now. They're
already going to have to play Iron Man style. Now imagine if River picks up an injury.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really?
Independiente Santa Fe is on 2 points. River is in a qualification spot for the knockout round on 6 points right now. Atletico Junior is level with them after their win at Fluminense last night, which was a shock. So now it is Fluminense on 8, River on 6 with a game in hand on both them and Junior, who is also on 6. Santa Fe is on 2. But if Santa Fe goes to El Monumental and beats an 11-man River with Enzo Perez in goal, then they're on 5, and it is 8, 6, 6, and 5 going into the last day of the group stage, and everything is on the table. Santa Fe is not here for a kickabout. They're here for blood. This is going to be a wild game because of that.
No, I mean, I was specifically just thinking that River Plate is just trying to do whatever they can to defend for 90 minutes and just try to get out of there.
Yeah, that's a different mentality entirely because they can't take it easy because the opposition's not going to let them. I mean, you've got generations of history between Colombian teams and Argentine teams, and of course Santa Fe comes in wanting to embarrass River Plate. So it's going to have a lot of edge to it. It's going to be wild. Hopefully, and the most importantly off the field, hopefully, there's no long-term issues with this for the players who have tested positive at River. And I haven't seen anything about anybody having even symptoms, let alone anything severe with effects of coronavirus. So hopefully that does not happen. Hopefully it doesn't spread further. I do believe they have another round of testing today before the game, and hopefully they don't have any other positives that would take them below 11. I don't know if maybe they get anybody back. I guess anything is possible here, and of course that's going to get the black helicopters going if they get a couple players back today before the game because they test negative. And welcome to CONMEBOL. I mean, the tabloids and everybody are going to be going nuts about this game all day and night long. Burns said that Gallardo said some players had symptoms, some didn't. Okay, I didn't see anything about severe, so I didn't even see the symptoms part. Hopefully it's not anything worse than the basics. So we will see. Absolutely, Tommy. I mean, just hope the players recover quickly. It's tough. I mean, to say forget the match, it's a tough situation for River because they do want to give themselves an opportunity to get through in this. This is a big deal to River, and when you get into the financials of the last year, getting to that knockout round in Libertadores is big. It's really big. It's a lot of money. So that's the balancing act that they've got to find a way to do. If they get a draw, they're in fine shape. You get ready for the last round. They host Fluminense. They do host, but they have the toughest opponent that they could get. But if you have a draw here, you keep yourself alive. If you get anything more than that, it's a historic win that would go down in the record books if they could pull that off. I don't know. It's going to be wild.
For the record, juice boxes right now.
Oh, boy.
River Plate is a plus 684.
Oh, wow.
Your draw is a plus 550, and Santa Fe is a minus 370.
Wow. I wondered how big the swing would be. That is the biggest tease of a tease of a tease when you talk about numbers being thrown on something. Man.
You put a bad juice box on this just for principle, don't you?
I don't know where you put it. I mean, I guess you put it on... The draw is where I would put a stinky juice box, just because, man, if River just sits everybody in the 18 and just kicks it as far away as they possibly can.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
90 minutes of just get it out of here.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know.
God, watch River do that and win and get one break and get a penalty on the break that's just not a real penalty, and somehow win this 1-0.
That would be about right if something like that were to happen. Because look at it. I mean, we do have to be clear about who they're playing. They're playing Independiente Santa Fe, who in their last 8 matches, they have won 1 time. They've drawn 3. They're not exactly a strong team at the moment. So this is just a really tricky, weird one. I have no idea where this goes. It's going to be fascinating.
And let's see. 3 of the 7 matches tonight, 5 of them have distinct favorites, and the other 2, one, the Tashira and Always Ready is is looking drawish, and Atletico is a favorite over Cerro Porteño, but the other 5 have definitive favorites tonight.
Okay.
So, Sporting Cristal's a minus 159. Belissarsfield's a minus 263. Flamengo's a minus 500 hosting LDU Quito. We talked about River Plate. America de Cali's a minus 164, and your draw is the Tashira Always Ready, basically. They're both in the 150 to 170 range.
The big news last night was Defensa y Justicia going to Brazil, playing an incredibly drunken match from the jump. It was 2-2 in 35 minutes. And then Defensa ends up with a stoppage time winner from Brian Romero, who has carried them to the Sudamericana title last year and continuing to do it. They get a 4-3 win in Brazil. Like I said before, anytime Palmeiras and Defensa play, watch it because it's ridiculous. Defensa beat them in the Recopa, which is the Super Cup. They now go to Brazil and get another historic win in Libertadores because it qualifies them for the knockout rounds of the tournament for the first time ever. Independiente del Valle lost in Peru to Universitario, so they will be trying to get a Sudamericana spot, finishing 3rd in the group. But it will be Palmeiras winning the group, and Defensa second. Defensa goes into the knockout rounds for the first time.
Pacine has a question on the Twitch pitch, and he is copywriting Real Talk Time. He says, when y'all talk about juice boxes, I get you're talking about bets. What I don't understand is what makes a bet stinky. Isn't it all supposed to mean money? Does that refer to the size of the bet?
The risk is the way that I use it as a joke. Like if we're playing the juice box thread out, I don't want to put my favorite juice boxes on a game that I think is a big risk. I will take a juice box that I do not like very much, or one that might be expired, and I will put that on that. It's all about the risk. That's just the joke for me anyway.
Yeah, the level of confidence is in proportion to the juice box that you like. Like for me, it would be a cran grape juice box if I thought it was something that would be a sure thing that I would put juice boxes on and feel I was going to get a return. So for me, it would be like cran grape or something like that. Pick your incredibly obscure flavor or something that has an expiration date of 2012, and that would be something that is just something that's got an enormously high number that you just want to put something on just to see what happens.
Yeah, it's just that like shot in the dark, throwing $2 on the super long shot horse at the track, because why not? It's that idea. Before we get to Tony Annan, because we have an interview that John and I were able to catch up with him yesterday. Jarrett, Chelsea beat Leicester. We talked about this coming in on Soccer Over There. We talked about it yesterday. It's tough to win back-to-back big games against the team. This one had a little bit of edge. You had everybody coming together late in the game, wanting to argue about things. But Chelsea gets the 2-1 win, and now they're in the driver's seat to get a Champions League qualification spot, and Leicester is in a tough spot, assuming Liverpool beats Burnley today.
And that's kind of where it sits now. We all watch the next one. These are fun races because of stuff like this, because now it turns into, hey, that was a lot of fun. Now let's watch and see where the rest of the dice fall today. Then we see where we stand after all of it. I think it's not easy to stomach for Leicester if they're out. It's a little easier, I think, because they got a piece of hardware this year than Chelsea, who is hardware to be determined. Because at the end of the day, as great as this year has been for Chelsea, you're still looking at the possibility of missing on Champions League and losing in the Champions League final, not going back to Champions League next year, and having zero hardware to show for it. Leicester's at least got a little bit of hardware that I feel like, I don't know if incorrect, and call me, I don't know if you think I'm wrong on it, but because of who Leicester is, their expectations may be changing, but they haven't changed 100%. A piece of hardware for Leicester is a rousing victory of a season in any capacity.
Leicester fans are now big Burnley fans, hoping for an upset against Liverpool.
Yes.
Let's get weird. Let's bring this down. In a perfect world, weird things happen with the Burnley game, and we go into the last day of the season watching 3 games at once. And then, it's like Decision Day in 2017, or like the fabled Manchester City Leicester game, of Aguero scoring, where, who's up in Champions League and who's not changes 5 times during the game.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at Leicester fans in their timeline, they are over the moon over the FA Cup, and if they're into European play, okay, but it sounds like, from what I've been reading with most of the Leicester fans, they're cool with an FA Cup win and not getting into Europe.
I mean, they'll still get into Europa League.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be in Europe, but just not in Champions League.
I mean, and I think the coolest thing about them, and the coolest thing about what Brendan Rodgers has going on, is he can change the paradigm and the expectations for Leicester of, hey, we won a trophy, this is a rousing victory, to give it a little time, and maybe you're in a situation where, you look at it and say, hey, we won a trophy, but we want more every year. That would be a really cool thing for him to put his stamp on with that club of, if you're looking at it as, hey, you won FA Cup, okay, but we want more, where that's not just a rousing victory.
Okay, Jarrett, before you go, we haven't talked about this. Patrick reminds everybody in the Twitch pitch if they haven't seen it. What happened with Peter Lowell, the former chief exec of Celtic, and this situation yesterday?
Yeah, crash on a cracker. Somebody firebombed a car near his house because people are terrible. People are garbage at times. I don't care if he drove the damn club into administration. You don't firebomb a car in people's houses when it's them or their family, even if they don't have a family. I mean, his family was there at the house. I don't care if they have a family or not. Still people. Don't do this. Trash.
Has anything else come out about it? I mean, is it just that this happened and we don't really know exactly why or how?
I saw
yet?
a few articles this morning, but I haven't read them all yet. I haven't read if there's anything new. I'm just... Good job, Celtic fans. You somehow made things worse for yourself. Great job. Rousing year. At least David Turnbull made the Scottish national team.
Yeah,
it's like the only good thing that happened.
No one was hurt.
Lewis Morgan didn't. So
Yeah,
what the hell are we even doing?
That's another bizarre thing. I don't know why
Whatever.
Lewis Morgan
We'll cross
didn't
that bridge
get called
later.
up. Blaisman tweeted it also did not get called up for France. Karim Benzema did, which was a little shocking. Thomas Muller and Mats Hummels did for Germany, which was a little surprising. So all kinds of ridiculousness. And yeah. Jarrett, thank you for joining into the crazy sprint to the beginning of the show. We appreciate it. And your Peter Crouch suggestion was incorrect.
What else is new?
Would you go in goal?
Yes.
You've got good hands, at least, from your baseball time. I don't know what your side-to-side movement is, though. I don't know what your footwork's like. I'm assuming not good.
I caught for way too long for these knees to work correctly.
That worries me.
But I also have, very long arms and can reach things. And I have a lack of... I don't care about my own physical well-being when it comes to, like, running out on a cross and punching it away. If I run into somebody, that's fine.
Okay, when you say that, I'm not putting you in goal because I don't trust you. I will turn to somebody else. But thanks for the attempt, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. I don't have a ready response to the thanks. Bye.
Bye. We'll see you tonight at the Fraction for Atlanta United 2 action.
Yes, you will. That's a threat.
Yes, it is. Jarrett will hop on to our Twos review tonight from after the match. And somebody who will be at the match and playing a very pivotal part is Tony Annan. We had a chance to talk to Tony yesterday, and this is what it sounded like.
Tony, thanks for hanging out with Jason and me. Good to see you.
No problem. Always a pleasure.
So, a couple of matches in the books. Obviously, things are a little different with divisions and such, but the overarching 30,000-foot takeaways from this first couple of matches for you would be what?
I'll be honest with you, I've been quite pleased with the guys. I think I've said before, it's a tough position when guys are getting pulled up and down, and there's a lot of movement between first team and USL and academy. So it makes it somewhat difficult to plan and sort of get your game model down. But I've been pleasantly surprised. The guys have took the instruction. The guys have, they've taken everything we've said. We've done a whole lot of video with them just to try and get them up to speed. But yeah, in all the games we've played so far, I feel like we've been the better team. Even in Louisville, we had spells of really good possession and creativity. And I think in the final third, we let ourselves down slightly. But it was the first game of the season. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I'm pleased with the guys, and they've done a great job.
I think what I've been most impressed with, Tony, is the fact that you've had some very different kinds of game day rosters. You've had a game where you had a bunch of first team guys getting 45 minutes. You've had games with a lot of academy players playing key roles. How has it been for you just mixing and matching and making that work?
It's fine. Look, I tell Carlos all the time, I just roll with it, right? That's my tag. It's just rolling with it. It's part of the role. If you understand what the role is of a USL team within a club, not a standalone, you have to deal with things like that, okay? I mean, it's great to get the academy guys involved, but you risk losing games because of the experience they give. But what they get out of it is huge. And then USL guys, obviously, who are signed to the USL, some of them have been in with the first team a lot. Some of them have been bounced up and down. And then you have the first team guys coming, dropping in, and you're told, look, he needs 45, he needs 60, he needs 90, and you have to deal with that. But at the end of the day, I'm a coach. And my job is to put the team on the field and make it play the Atlanta way and show our identity as best we can. I think as long as you prepare as best you can and as long as the communication is good between the players, you see what we can get out of it without having a regular team week after week like we did in the fall during the COVID. We had everyone together all the time. So it was really easy to get that belief and the understanding of what you want to do. But again, it's an enjoyable role. It's a different role at the club. I don't think everyone's not equipped to do it. If you're a guy that wants to kick on and take over the first team, it's probably not a great role because it's kind of frustrating at times. But again, if you can understand what you're doing, then it makes it better,
All right, let's go back to last weekend and the second time that you've seen OKC Energy and the second time you've seen OKC Energy at Taft this year. I think that the match over the weekend, you have to give the guys a lot of credit because they were down twice, but they came back each time. And then at 90 plus, there was still churning and trying to get that game winner. And Coleman Gannon had the shot that was just wide at the last. I think it speaks a lot to what you've been able to look at this year with the guys, where down twice, come back twice, get a shared result, but you're still pushing after that full-time result.
Yeah, I mean, the energy games, the first one was okay. I thought we deserved to win that game. We controlled the game. I didn't feel like they tried to play, and it caused us some physical difficulties. But other than that, I thought we controlled the game. The second game was chaos. I mean, it was literally their bench was going nuts. The referee was, for me, over his head. Probably get fined for that, but never mind. It was chaos, and it was frantic. And I thought the guys did an unbelievable job of keeping themselves on their feet on the ground, not getting emotionally wrapped up in the game, because I think that's what they wanted. It's a very difficult place to play. It's a tough pitch. It's a narrow pitch. They're a big physical team, and they play very direct and throw the ball right at you. The second game, the only disappointment for me was we stressed about giving them opportunities to do set pieces. We stressed that, even though their second goal came from a ghost free kick. We didn't deal with it, and we could have dealt with it. Those were the only disappointments. But the resilience of the lads to get their heads up and score two, we created a really good goal with a penalty. Some great play before that, leading up to it, and then the second goal, actually scoring off a set piece, second ball ourselves, was massive. And maybe last year we wouldn't have got through that, but this year it feels like we've got the resilience to get through those results.
I think a big part of that resilience is an element of the twos that we don't talk about enough. When I've talked to you over the years, we always talk about the academy guys pushing through, getting that experience, their growth. But this is a club that's seen Lawrence Wyke and then Jack Gurr sign on twos deals out of college and work their way into first-team contracts. And you've added some players who are in that kind of situation, like Chris Allen, like Aiden McFadden this year. Two guys who've really stood out to me with that mentality that I think has changed the group a bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, you sign guys to this roster hopefully with the forecast that they will kick on. Like Jack was always, for me, a signing that I thought had a chance. And sure enough, he come in and Gabby really likes him and he's pulled him in with him and he's right on the fringes of the first team. He's got a lot to do, but that's kind of where you look at it. Same with the academy guys. You pull the academy guys in, hoping for them to get that experience to then kick on into the first team. It's a process. We've talked about process every time we've spoken for coaches and players. But, yeah, I mean, this is a platform for those guys to really show that they can play at the next level. And a few guys this season have stepped up, showed resilience, showed some grit and some actual ability that, yes, you look at them and you go, you know what? In 3 or 4 months, you could be kicking on to another something else. So it's an important piece. And it's an important piece for me as a coach. I think every team I have a coach is built on that resilient grit and hard work and attitude, but also trying to blend the way we play within that. And I think that's key for any successful coach.
Then looking at it, I guess, from year to year, I guess let's get into the academy guys here a little bit. When you see a Coleman Gannon, you see a Morales who's here for a second year. You see a Lamb who's here for a second season, a Tyler Wolf here for a second season, Johnny Fortune, and a Caleb Wiley. What's it like to see their games continue to grow, hopefully following that path that you want them to go? What's it like to see their games continue to grow and evolve?
No, I mean, look, it's awesome. It's magic feeling that you see kids that you've brought through from 12 years old, who've been with the club, and they've developed. And I'm a development guy at heart. I love the development stage of the game, and I think it's imperative that we continue to push our younger kids into this level of football, to expose them and I thought Caleb Wiley had a hard time on Sunday night in Oklahoma. And that's really the hardest time he's had in probably 6 or 7 months. And Caleb takes that personally. He takes it badly. He goes straight home. He watches the film because that's who Caleb is. But without those experiences, if Caleb was just playing our 17s and 19s every week, he wouldn't be developing half as quick as he is now. And he's still only 16 years old. So if you take him as an example, if we want to produce guys in this country who go from academy to USL or even reserve team to first team, they have to get these challenging games where they don't always succeed and they fall flat on their face and they cry and they're upset at themselves after the game and they walk off the pitch and their fans telling them they want to take them in the car park and beat them up. These are things. This is all development and it's all good stuff for young players to be exposed to that. And the guys who are coming out of college, same thing. College game's different to a pro game. So, like I said, it's part of the process, it's part of development, and it's imperative that we continue to do that.
You've mentioned the Atlanta way a lot, and I think we've talked about it here on SDH a good bit about the identity of what an Atlanta United player, what an Atlanta United team looks like. How is that tweaked a little bit this year with Gabriel Heinze in charge of the first team and you taking some of that to the second team to get these guys ready?
Yeah, I mean, look, at clubs like this and big clubs all over the world, the first team guy comes in with his ideas and his way. And Gabby's ideas are very close to the United way. Only, he likes a bit more man for man than I do. And I'll be totally honest, I've never done man for man, so I wouldn't really pretend to know what I was doing. I've watched his sessions, I've tried to see what they're doing. But, USL and down through the academy has its way that we established already. And while we'll always try to get as close to the first team as we can, it'll never be identical, I don't think. But there's a good understanding between the first team and the USL of what they need and what they require. And at the end of the day, they're the crown jewel of the club, and whatever they want, we should do our best to get them. So, yeah, I mean, it will continue to always be a pressing club, I think, with Carlos at the helm. We'll always try and build, we'll always try and dominate games with possession. But I think that's our way, and that's the way we would like to be seen and be identified with,
Do you remember, I guess, your first meeting with Gabriel Heinze, your first conversations with Gabby, and what those moments were like for, someone who's coming into a situation? What were those first interactions like for you?
Great. I mean, he's open. He's a welcoming guy. He's unbelievably intense on the pitch and on the sideline, and as he should be. So am I. I don't think anybody would ever question that. But no, his communication is good. He's very open. He's very welcoming. It doesn't shut you out. Him and his staff have been great, to us, and they've asked for what they need, and we've had good conversations. So the fact that he's pushing guys to get minutes with us, he trusts us to get these guys minutes. It's a good relationship between the USL and the first team. So first few interactions were very friendly, and now the season has started, the interactions get less and less. Pressure mounts on him, and we get going. There's not that much time like it was in pre-season, but I mean, everything from where I sit is fine.
How exciting is it for you finally being on the touchline for a USL match and actually having fans, your own fans, in the building tomorrow night?
Can't wait. Cannot wait. My kids get to come see Daddy coach. I mean, it's great. And my wife, they very rarely see me coach last year because it was behind closed doors. So them alone is really pleasing to me. But to have the 17s in the building as well, to give those guys a bit of a boost is nice. We've been at Louisville and Oklahoma, and they've all had fans. So it'd be nice to have someone cheering for us as well when we step on the pitch.
How out of sorts was it last year where you're in empty buildings and we're hearing you more than we would under normal circumstances through crowd mics and things like that? How out of sorts was it for you as a coach last season?
Yeah, you hear me not always in the best tone, I guess. I'm sure Jason's pointed that out with his commentary. Yeah, it's odd, right? It's really different. It's not like the twos played in front of 40,000 every week. Let's be honest there. But to not have that few hundred, that few thousand cheering you on and welcoming the team on the pitch and getting behind the team is odd. Certainly, I think there's certainly a motivation factor that you have to try and get them up as a coach during the game as well, and try and control the tempo with your vocals, because there's no crowd to get that to get behind the team. But it's odd, it's strange. I mean, I've got friends all over the world who coach who said it's just not the same without the fans in the building, and it's the game is for the fans, and that's what we do. And I'm just so happy that guys get to go back to the crowd. I mean, the Bens looked amazing. We were away, but the Bens looked amazing at the weekend. And I remember being in the Bens last year with nobody there against Orlando City, and it was just the weirdest thing I'd ever gone through in my life. So it's great to have them back. I'm sure the players will be buzzing to have some support.
We get to see a different opponent in FC Tulsa tomorrow night. You've seen Oklahoma City a couple of times now with the new alignment. Tulsa is a club that's trying to build something special. We've talked to Michael Encian. I really like what he's working on out there. Have you had a chance to dig much into them, and how are you preparing for Tulsa?
Yeah, I've watched a few of their games, and I've been impressed with them. They try and play. They've got some very, very bright players. I like their style of play. I think they're a very good team, and it'll be very different from what we experienced in Louisville, and definitely different to what we experienced in Oklahoma. But I think it may suit us to get on the pitch with a team that wants to play football and go toe to toe on the ground in a football way. So I think it might be a good game for the neutral to watch. But yeah, I'm going to give them the respect they're due, and they've been doing really well, and they are a very good team.
So then the last question from me is, you know that they're a very good team. This, I guess, would go into the keys to the game section of the program. So for things to go well for you against a team that has come out of the blocks 3-0, what has to go right for you and Atlanta United 2 going up against a very tough FC Tulsa side?
I think we have to try and control the tempo of the game and try and dominate the ball, where I know Tulsa are very used to doing that. I think we have to try and get on the front foot and try and dominate more of the possession. We have to defend set pieces as well as we have been, but even, like last week, it's been difficult. They're a physical team as well. They've got some big guys, so we've got to make sure that we're switched on defensive set plays. They like to cross the ball early and get balls in the box early. We've got to be switched on to that. But for us, the biggest thing for me is we've got to capitalise on our breakaways into the final third and getting our numbers. And when we get numbers up, we have to capitalise on that and create chances and put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, that's what the game's about, and that's what we've been lacking a little bit in the last couple of games. So I think those three things will help us definitely have a chance with taking them down.
Can't let you get away, Tony, without asking, as you start to look back, since your big announcement heading over to South Carolina, how do you feel about the legacy that you're leaving at Atlanta United on the academy side and with the twos and so many guys pushing forward to the first team that you've had a hand in developing?
I'll be honest with you, it was a very tough decision to leave the club. Atlanta's my heart, you know that. I've been here for years. I've been amongst it forever. Atlanta United gave me the opportunity to do what I do on a whole new level. I wouldn't call it legacy. I really don't love the word legacy, but I like to feel that I'm leaving the club in a very good condition. I was part of the furniture, I was fifth employee. I was involved in everything. Darren and Carlos made sure that I was involved in everything, and it was a very tough decision, but it's just sometimes in life these things come along and you're intrigued and you want to try something new. I think enrich your life and experiences in life are very, very important. And while it's really hard to leave, I'm excited about the opportunity to do something else and in another arena of football, because I love to say that I've worked in pretty much every arena that I can possibly do. So heavy heart, but excitement. But I definitely feel like what we have here and what's set up here can continue and even evolve and get better. I think the talent coming through the academy is amazing, and we've got some amazing staff that can obviously continue and evolve the academy and make things better. And like I said, I think the USL's in good shape as well, with a crop of young guys who are always looking to poke their head up to the first team. So I feel good about moving on and leaving the place that I helped build in a very, very good situation.
And we'll be keeping an eye on you in Columbia, but first we're going to keep an eye on you with Atlanta United 2 at Kennesaw State. Tony Annan, head coach of Atlanta United 2, thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH. We'll be keeping an eye on you as we go, and a big matchup early in the season, Atlanta United 2 and FC Tulsa. Tony, thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
And as always, great to catch up with Tony Annan and get the feel of things. And, Jason, it was interesting where we found out that he was employee number 5.
We knew that. we knew that one before. We've had that conversation.
I knew he was part of that sequence, just I didn't know where he fell in. But when you have employee number 5 who refers to himself as part of the furniture, and I know that we were looking at the question that it was phrased having to do with legacies, and Tony, it was more along the lines of making sure that when you go into a place, you leave it better than when you came in, and Tony is certainly doing that as employee number 5 eventually makes his way to Columbia and the fairgrounds to take over at South Carolina.
Yeah, it's a different role. And I think what Tony said about a different challenge, a different area of the game, it's something that he wanted to pursue. And I mean, I've known Tony for a long time before Atlanta United, and I know how much Atlanta as a whole, not even Atlanta United, but as the city as a whole, means to him. He's been here for a long time. Being around the club from the pre-Atlanta United days when it was MLS Atlanta, yeah, it's a tough decision, but it is an opportunity to do something different. It is a very stable opportunity at South Carolina as well. It's an opportunity to build something and know he'll get time to build it. And I think most importantly, it's a time, that he'll get to be on the touchline and build a team and do all of that day to day that he's been able to do in the last year or so since he became the interim manager for the Twos. But if you go back before that, he was the academy manager, then became the director really early on. He was still coaching a team in those early, years of that. And then he transitioned to overseeing the academy, and he wasn't on the touchline. He wasn't managing a team day to day. Then he got that opportunity again. And maybe that itch got scratched a little bit. And now he wants to see what that opportunity is. When you're a coach, you're a coach. And we talked to him years ago about what that would be about coaching coaches for him. It's a different role. I think he's done a very, very good job. I think the academy and the consistency across the teams and the way they play and being able to manage that part that we talked about with what the first team manager wants, because it's always a little different. You're never going to find 5 first team managers in a row who play the game the exact same way. They have to fit into what the identity is. Yep. And the identity is very important. And it's also broad. It's just like we've talked about over the years with the idea of a mission and a vision statement. The identity is the vision statement. It has a lot of flexibility in it to accomplish it. To play a certain way, it's not saying we play 4-3-3. It's saying we want to control games. We want to play with pressure. We want to be high intensity. All those kinds of elements. Different managers who come in are going to tweak that here or there. The academy needs to give players the ability to be able to fit into whatever those tweaks are. And we've talked about it consistently. Gabriel Heinze, more man-to-man, as Tony said, more intense pressure, playing defense in the other team's half. That's different than Frank de Boer. You need to produce players who can play in both. And Tony's been able to do that first with the academy as a coach and a manager. Second, as a director, overseeing coaches who are doing that for their players. And then third, as the manager for the Twos in that last bit of preparation, getting a guy like Jackson Conway ready to move up. Getting a guy like last year, Jack Gurr, ready to move up. But then also bringing guys down and fitting them into the group like we saw in the first game out at OKC with Mikey Ambrose, with Mateo Sosechu, with Alex DeJohn. Veterans, of different levels of experience worldwide who are able to drop down and fit in and have the mentality and lift the group. So that's a tough thing to do. And when you get that opportunity to coach in that way again, yeah, it might have been something that this is an opportunity that was presented to him. It was a tough decision to make. I would not be surprised in any way to see Tony Annan back in Atlanta with Atlanta United sometime down the road. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he goes to South Carolina and wins multiple national championships. All of that is on the table, and he's going to have that opportunity to see what's next for him. I'm excited for him. It is a loss for the club.
Yeah.
And it will be a big deal going forward for the club. That replacement will be very important. But sometimes these things happen when you have a club that brings in good people and helps develop them, because Tony's developed during his time here. He's been able to learn more. He's been able to put things into practice that were maybe theory before. So when you bring in people and they grow and they become prized assets, other people want your prized assets.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to reload and you have to rebuild and you have to keep moving forward with a new influx of folks. And that's going to be the next job here for the club as a whole, to replace Tony Annan at the twos and replace Tony Annan as the academy director. So it's two big hires that are coming up here soon.
Yeah. Tafka says he's psyched that Tony's taking over at USC. He's attended occasional matches, but the men's soccer program had become completely stagnant. Mm-hmm. Planning to get season tickets and follow much more closely now, hoping a couple Atlanta United Academy kids come our way each year.
I would assume that they would, especially in the early days of it. A lot of kids from Atlanta, probably a lot of kids who've come through that academy who don't quite make that pro level yet, but might down the road. And that's a good spot to be in, and that's a good connection to have if you're Atlanta United, to be able to say, hey, we've got this guy that is really close, and he's not ready for a pro deal yet, but go play here for this guy who will get you ready. Wake Forest, you have that with Bobby Moose right now, with what he did with Machop Chol, and now Garrison Tubbs is there. You're going to have another place to send people to South Carolina now, and Tony Annan can get them ready for the next level. That's a big deal. All right, we've got Mike Conti on deck. He will be joining us here in just a second. But, John, you got to tell us about Steve Apolinsky in Decatur, GA.
Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, one place you need to go, and it is Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can do it. You can pick up the phone, give them a call, get a free consultation, 404-377-9191. You can go and shoot Steve an email if you want, steve at aa-legal.com, or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small, type in aa-legal.com. In the address bar, hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, and advances to the homepage, Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. You can find out all the different cases they can handle for you, all the different awards that they have won in their over 30 years of experience, and over $40 million in judgments that they have garnered for their clients in Georgia and Alabama. And if you still have questions by looking at the homepage and the pull-down menus still have not given you the answers, the awards still have not given you all the answers that you're looking for as to accolades that they have won, there's a pop-up window that pops up, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison. Recognized as legally by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. It is Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
That was an odd one, John.
Well, it got odd because what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize a window here because I have to do an effect.
You have to do an effect?
I do. I have to demonstrate something, because when I did this, it muted me on Skype, and it muted me off, muted me, and muted me back. And so I was having to battle that after typing in the faux address bar.
John's having problems with his effects pedals, Mike.
Yeah, and I'm having some Wi-Fi problems, so I can cast no stones. Hopefully this segment works out okay.
You're good
back
now.
in the office
Came in
today,
came in a little hot, but we're good now.
Okay, good. Yeah. Bear with me if I drop out or anything like that. The Wi-Fi here at the office just is not very good, and in order to fix it, they have to take the whole radio station down, and obviously they don't want to do that. So
No.
you know how.
No, you definitely don't want to do that. Wow. Okay. Good times. Getting ready for the Twos home opener tonight, Mike. This is going to be fun, and I think one of the big questions is a lot of people have had is first-team players playing tonight. I would assume that there will be quite a few who didn't factor in on Saturday and might or might not factor in on the trip to Seattle that will get on the field tonight.
Should be pretty easy to accomplish because it looks like the team is not flying out to Seattle until late Friday. So it should be pretty easy to pull that off. I wouldn't be shocked if this is a situation similar to what we saw, I guess, 2 weeks ago on Sunday when they were in Oklahoma, and it was the day after the first team had played against New England, and you're able to play like Josetu for 45 minutes. I think Ambrose played for 45 minutes. Maybe a couple others. I don't remember exactly. I could absolutely see the same thing happening tonight. Josetu needs some games. We've talked about that. I think Mikey Ambrose probably needs some games. This will be a way to maybe accomplish that. Tyler Wolf becomes interesting. I thought that goal that he got over the weekend was really, really important for him because he had been struggling a little bit with the twos. And I think Tyler Wolf is someone who is needed by the first team right now. So it's a balance. It's a balance between trying to find these guys some games, but also not risking anything if they're in the plans for this Sunday at Seattle. But yeah, absolutely. I would anticipate we're going to see some first team players tonight.
How long did it take your voice to recover after the end of the match on the weekend?
I think I thought I kept it. I thought it was okay. My wife was the one who got really hoarse. She was sitting down in section 140 something. She said it was really, really loud down there the whole game. But no, I mean, I was good. I mean, fortunately we didn't really have a lot of things before that would cause me to lose my voice. So I was good.
Yeah, it was a wild finish. What are your thoughts about the game as a whole? Because, we talked about it on the full-time report. There were a lot of differing opinions about the match in general.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was a good game. But maybe I'm just more easily excited and entertained than others. I don't know. I thought it was a well-played match. I thought Montreal is pretty good. I think they proved that. I think they're for real, and I think they proved that. Going back and re-watching the match, there were maybe a few more opportunities for Atlanta United to score than what I remembered in the immediate aftermath of the match. 3, I think, really decent opportunities for Joseph Martinez. You had one for Mulroney that was just off. It was off, but it was just off. You had one for Moreno where he kind of scuffed it a little bit. I don't know what the XG turned out to be. I didn't go back and look at that. But there were more scoring opportunities in that match than maybe the 1-0 scoreline would make you think. In my opinion, I was entertained. I thought it was an intense, well-played match, had a feel to it. I think the crowd was a big part of why it had a feel to it. Are things perfect right now? No. Are there still things to work on? Yes. Does it need to be faster? Yes. But you found a way. You were better in the key moment. You won, and I don't think you played badly at all. There are things that need to improve in the attack and in the final third again, but I was entertained. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that. A lot of people are going to disagree and take shots on Twitter with me saying that. That's fine. I don't care. I thought it was a good match. So that's how I feel.
Well, and Mike, what I do when I watch Atlanta United matches is I'm taking notes and I'm writing down moments. So that way, when we review it, I can sit there and look at moment. It's basically timestamps of events. And when Jason and I were, talking about it, and then we were talking about it on, Salty Takeaways, it's like, okay, there's a Moreno moment. There's another Moreno moment. And
Right.
Marcelino Moreno was all the way through my timeline in this
Right.
match against Montreal. Where do you think this match was for him when it comes to most impactful matches that Marcelino Moreno has been a part of since his time here with Atlanta United?
I mean, it would have to be near or at the top of the list, but it's a short list. But I mean, he scored the game-winning goal, so obviously that's a huge impact right there. I thought the match up in New England, he was really, really good. Scored a penalty, but did all the work to create the penalty. I thought he was really, really good there. He's just, I don't even know if inconsistent would be the correct word. I don't think that's fair to him. It's a process. Sometimes he's playing centrally. Sometimes he's playing out on the wing. It looks like playing centrally, it's a little bit better of a fit for him. But I think Barco looks really good playing centrally. So how do you balance that if and when Barco comes back? So I don't want to say inconsistent because it's not necessarily his fault where he's being positioned right now. That's up to the coaching staff. I think, again, you are seeing him be, and this is something that Carlos talked about on 92.9 yesterday. I think when he's playing centrally, he is providing moments of danger, and that's a good thing. That's what you want him to do. Hopefully with Marcelino, it's kind of the same thing with Joseph, where scoring that goal may be kind of a weight off his shoulders, and it unlocks some things emotionally for him. You could tell he was very, very emotional after the match, but I thought he played really well. Again, I just maybe I see things through a different lens than others, but I thought he played well. Was he perfect? No. I mentioned he had a scoring opportunity that he could have done a lot better on earlier in the match, so he was absolutely not perfect, but I thought he was better.
Yeah, I think when you go through the numbers, you're not the only one. I mean, I've talked about Moreno a lot, and when you look at something that takes the subjectiveness out of it, and it's just focusing on the output and the statistical output. And yeah, this takes the eye test away from it, and it doesn't tell you everything because I don't think soccer is a overwhelming stats game. Like, stats can point you in the right direction, but with Moreno, he's the third highest rated player on Atlanta United's team right now. Brad Kazan is getting the highest ratings on SofaScore for what he's doing, both as in goal making plays, but also with his possession. Miles Robinson is next. Barco is just ahead of Moreno, but we haven't seen Barco in a minute. And Moreno's next. He's a very highly rated player according to what he's doing, and he's doing a lot. It's not just scoring that game-winning goal, scoring his second goal of the season. It's not just earning a penalty like he did in New England on the dribble. He's one of the most dangerous players on the dribble in the league. His passing has been very good, but he also puts in a lot of hard work off the ball defensively that is very important for this group. So when you do all of that and you're putting in all of that work, it's great to see him get the reward of that moment Saturday night. And you hope that can spur him on to even more.
I agree. I totally agree. But it is going to be interesting if you get Barco back soon, and I don't know what's going on there. I don't know how long that will be. But then I think it does become interesting. Do you try to put Barco back on the wing with Moreno playing centrally, or do you put Barco centrally with Moreno playing on the wing? I think that is going to be an interesting decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it'll be interchangeable either way because what we've seen from Moreno, and this is another element that he gives you, is he can tuck inside, he can make those central runs, but he can, in 1v1 situations out wide, open the game up. He's not a traditional winger, But the way that this team plays, you're not always looking for a traditional winger. So it's a lot of whoever he's paired with. And I think we've seen him with Eric Lopez and with Mulraney, where they've kind of been the interchangeable parts over there. If it's Barco, it's Barco. And if Barco ends up drifting out wide, which he likes to do anyway, because he likes to get out of the middle occasionally and get it isolated in those 1v1s, Moreno has to come inside. So they can make that work. And his versatility is a weapon. It's a huge weapon for this team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like I said, I mean, hopefully this helps him to just get into a better place mentally. Not that he was in a bad place, but it's got to give him a boatload of confidence. And, you know, in a match like that that's so even, and Wednesday's match statistically was so even. We talked about that on the radio. You know, if you look at all the key statistical metrics in that match, it was a very, very evenly played match. When it's that even, you need your best player to be clutch in the biggest moment, and that's what happened. And Mulraney was a huge part of it too.
Bello was too.
You need your best players to step up in those moments, and that's something we should be celebrating, is that Marcelino Moreno did step up in the moment. That's why he's here. That's what you want from him. And in matches like what you had Saturday, it comes down to those moments. And that's why Atlanta United won the match.
Well, and Mike, you know, when we talk about the game-winning goal, it's different folks doing different things in the build-up. It's Sosa, then it's Bello with the pass, and then he underlaps and cuts inside to draw folks over as the ball's with Mulraney over on the edge. And then Mulraney, Jason mentioned this as we were talking about it for the first time. Mulraney takes the time to look up and sense where he is and then puts it into a spot. It wasn't just a cross that was bombed into the area or bombed to the top of the six for a hit and you hope somebody's there. And so it's those pieces of that team goal that you're looking for, and it ends up where Moreno heads it past Diop. And so I think that it was one of those instances where you could see the pieces fitting together in a moment toward what everyone's looking for when it comes to this team offensively.
Yeah, it started with Brad Guzan and his role in the build-up, really, which is very, very important in the Heinz A philosophy, is the goalkeeper having a role in the build-up. It was a heads-up play by Brad to immediately start the counter. George, who was out of gas and out of oil. I mean, he wasn't just out of gas, he was out of oil.
The hood was up, the smoke's coming.
Yeah, I mean, the radiators got steam coming out of it left there. I mean, George is just completely dead tired and still found a way to beat Struna and then work it to Mulraney, and as you mentioned, great cross. So, those are the types of team goals that I think we're going to see more of from Atlanta United this year. Joseph's goal was a really good team goal. Moreno was in New England, that was a penalty, but it was a team penalty earned. So we've had example. I know so much has been made of the number of open play goals scored by this team this year. And look, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. But this is why I'm optimistic, is because you see that the pieces are falling into place. And it is a work in progress, but it is working. You just need to have it happen more frequently. You had a really, really good team goal at the death on Saturday to win a match. So let's see where they go from here. Unfortunately, your next two matches, I think there's a really good chance you could suffer some adversity in these next two matches. Seattle is Seattle. Nashville has not conceded in more than 300 minutes. So these next two matches going into the international break, I think you'd be very fortunate if you got 3 points out of the two matches. And I hope that's not the case. I hope you get more, because it's going to be a very long 3 weeks talking about it. But this is the unfortunate reality of the schedule right now for Atlanta United. It's going to be really, really tough these next 2 weeks. And I think that's why it was so critical that they found a way to get 3 on Saturday as opposed to 1. By the way, Montreal was time wasting at the end of that match. So I think we learned a lot about the way that Montreal felt about the match state at the end. Atlanta United was in control of that match at the end. That's what you want. Miami was in control of the match 2 weeks ago down in Fort Lauderdale. That's not what you want. That's why you suffered a draw rather than win 1-0. Miami was as Jason said, in the ascendancy at the end of the match. But I don't think there's much dispute that Atlanta United was in the ascendancy at the end of the match on Saturday. And that was with Heinze not making subs on top of it, other than Mulroney. So lots of encouraging signs, but I think we're going to have to really kind of balance what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks against the level of competition that you're facing. And I just hope that there's going to be a level of patience surrounding what's going to come the next 2 weeks, because these are going to be incredibly difficult matches. Has Seattle played a road match yet, by the way? It feels like they're home every week. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, they have, but not many.
Not many. It just feels like Atlanta's always on the road and Seattle's always at home. But that's the unfortunate break in the schedule. And then
actually, no, Seattle's 3-3, home and away.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
It doesn't feel like that at all.
Yeah, they're 3-3. I didn't feel that way either.
Feels like every time I'm watching them, they're at home. But regardless, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough this Sunday. And I just hope. I hope that whatever happens on Sunday, that I've started watching Ted Lasso this week. I hope whatever happens on Sunday, that Atlanta United's players and supporters will be goldfish about it.
Go.
Because you got a big home match before Memorial Day against Nashville, and I think that one is very winnable.
Yeah, I'm honestly not worried about the players and the staff reacting, because they understand the situation. These are adults who've been in a situation before where you're going to face the best team in the league in their building. It's tough.
And you're short-handed.
Yes. Well, I'm assuming. We don't know exactly.
I can't imagine any way that Barca was playing. I mean,
I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah.
But Gabriel Heinze will speak to the media Friday, where we should get an update on him and on Jurgen Damm. But you're going in, even with those guys, you're going in to face a team that's won 5 of 6 and has 1 draw. Has only given up 2 goals in 6 games. They're very good, and they're very good at what they do. And you have to give Brian Schmetzer a lot of credit for coming into the season, having the guts to change the way that they play, go to 2 up top, get Will Bruin on the field more often, who I think is one of the more underrated players in the league. He has been for a long time, to replace Jordan Morris, because you don't have Morris. They didn't just try to pigeonhole somebody into that spot and shove them in and expect the same production, because there's not another Jordan Morris right now. So they change it up, and it's worked. And I didn't think it would. I didn't think it worked to this degree. It has. Schmetzer's got the best team in the league right now. So they're also a team that's comfortable. They're going to be at home, so it's interesting to see how they play this. But they're a team that's very comfortable doing what most teams have done against Atlanta United this season. Being careful, not getting caught in trying to build out of the back too much, being comfortable giving away possession, and being careful and trying to hit on the break when they know Atlanta's going to commit numbers forward against a lower block. That is something Seattle's very good at, and Atlanta has to be careful in their own way in this without losing who they are. That's a tough balance sometimes early on.
You know what I'm looking forward to? Atlanta United finally facing a team that doesn't play 2 up top. I'm really excited to see that.
They play 2 up top.
I know. I'm really excited for
again.
I'm really excited for Atlanta United to play a team that doesn't do that, because it feels like week after week after week, that's what they're facing.
That's weird, because that wasn't the way in MLS for a long time. This year has been interesting with that, because Montreal wasn't a 2 up top team last year. They are now. Seattle wasn't, and they are now. Orlando kind of did 2 up top in game 1. It was a little more fluid. Alajuelense was a 2 up top team in CONCACAF. Philly is a 2 up top team. They've always been under Jim Curtin. So yeah, that's a real quirk of the schedule where you've seen it. Yeah. You've seen a couple teams change to it that they weren't previously.
Right, exactly. Just frustrating because I think Atlanta United wants to be a 4-3-3 team. And not that they haven't been in moments this year, but I think they want to be a 4-3-3 team. And I think it's been unlucky that they have faced so many teams this year. And here comes another one on Sunday that does play with two up top. Fortunately, going forward, I mean, if you look at the schedule from here, I don't think New York City plays two up top. I don't believe. I don't think Red Bulls,
but they don't typically. Red Bulls might.
Right.
Red Bulls might because they went to a little more of the 4-2-2-2 under Struber.
Yeah. Philly, they will again.
Yeah.
Geez, come on, guys. Well, I mean, don't we play Chicago pretty soon again, like 4th of July weekend or something like that? So there you go. That's the next one, I guess, where we'll have a 4-3-3.
I think the important element of that, Mike, is and this goes back to, I think, the big conversation about Atlanta United right now, and there's a piece over at MLSsoccer.com to check out that it goes into the chance creation.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to build a foundation that will sustain you all year long and also be doing everything it needs to do day one. If you come out and you do it, in my opinion, if you rush building that foundation, it's flimsy. It doesn't last. They've built it on patience. They've built it on possession. And that is the way to go, in my opinion. And now you start to add those elements of more movement, of more, quicker passing, starting to understand where the positioning is. The challenge, though, is when you do have to kind of shift a couple of times, go 4 in the back here, 3 in the back here. Sosa, has to read the game. He has to sit a little bit deeper at times against two forwards. He's got to protect that back line. That changes the positioning a little bit. So you're not getting consistent positioning at times. And that makes it more difficult because when you go through the whole series of numbers, if you want to take this down to a numbers game, shot creating actions, Atlanta's in the top half of the league. I think they're in the top third. I think they're 8th, if I remember right. Key passes per game, they're in the top half. XA, if you start to get into the expected assists from their passes, it's in the bottom half. XG is in the bottom half. So if you take all that and you want to bring a theory out of it, you're not creating good enough chances because of this. You're creating chances, they're not great chances. So to create better chances, you have to be able to make those passes quicker. The movement off the ball has to be better. And you need some consistency in the way that you're able to approach games. That's tough because of the schedule and because of the idea, which is the right one, by the way. I completely agree with Gabriel Heinze on this. You don't want to play. If you're going to be this aggressive, which is something that everybody said they wanted, if you're going to get as many numbers forward, as many numbers into the attacking half, press high, you don't want to leave 2 center backs against 2 forwards. You don't want to leave that because it's too risky. One good ball over the top, forget it. We're already seeing how that risk can play with a free man. So you can't just go 4-3-3 against their 2 forwards because you want to, because that is too much risk while you're trying to build this. So that just adds to the degree of difficulty of implementing a way of playing. If any of that makes sense as I'm trying to structure this a little bit, it's a tough one. And it's just, it complicates the job for Gabriel Heinze and his staff and slows things down a little bit.
No, you really made the point beautifully. Heinze wants to do certain things right now. Unfortunately, he has not been able to execute exactly what he wants to do because of the way opponents are trying to approach Atlanta United right now. It does make me wonder if you're going to see teams on the fixture sheet who typically play with one up top, maybe getting out of what they do a little bit and playing 2 up top to knock Atlanta United off balance a little bit. But it's one more complication to what's already been a very complicated 10 weeks. And by the way, again, Atlanta United has results in all but 2 of their competitions. Not bad.
Right, exactly. I think that's the number one thing here.
Yeah, but I feel like, I don't know about you guys, and Jason, you go on 92.9, and John, I know you talk a lot about the team outside of this program. I feel like every time we're asked about Atlanta United right now, it feels like a cross-examination.
It does.
And I just don't know. Like, thank God that they have results in 7 out of 9 competitions instead of losses in 7 out of 9 competitions, because then I would really hate to know what kind of questions we'd be facing right now. I just, again, I don't think the feeling of how this team is doing right now matches the reality. They're third in the East in points per match right now. I think they're 8th in the league in points per match.
And you had the numbers that this is their second best start in team history in MLS.
Ever. Yes. Yeah. But, in 2018, they had like 23 goals at this time, and now they only have 10. So, and look, I get it. I mean, we all want to see more goals, but I think Jason has very, very correctly pointed out what the issues there are, that the movement off the ball needs to be better. Things need to be a little bit faster. But, I mean, objectively, and maybe I'm just totally wrong and I'm not seeing things correctly. Objectively, I really do feel like it's getting there. I really do feel like it's moving in the correct direction. And I feel like this attack is in a way better place now than they were, say, against, I don't know, well, that's even an invalid comparison because he had a red card. I think this attack's in a better place than they were when they went to Orlando.
Yeah.
To an extent, I think it looks a little better than it did against even Chicago. You scored 3 goals in that match, but I just feel like it's connecting better now. We knew this would take time. I feel like they're on schedule or maybe even a little bit ahead.
It's quality. It's just improving the quality, and it's improving I think improving the movement off the ball more than anything. That third and fourth player getting involved in situations. That's the key, in my opinion, and it can be there. It's not far off. It's really not far off. I think when you said that the reality doesn't match the results, I'll go a step further. The reaction doesn't match the reaction outside the team doesn't match the reaction of the players and the staff. I don't get a sense of any worry or concern from the players when they speak to the media pregame or postgame. I don't get a sense of worry or concern from Gabriel Heinze pregame or postgame. It almost feels like they're a little surprised when they're asked, like they should be worried or concerned at this point.
Yeah.
They know the process. And yeah, it is a process. It is. But you're getting results while early on in the process. That's a good balance to be in. And, the idea that the possession or the patience is a bad thing, it's easier to add more risk-taking, add more movement off the ball, add more pace of play from where you are now than to be helter-skelter frantic, just running and playing as fast as you can and risking everything and then bringing it back.
Yeah.
It's easier to build from, let's get it right defensively, let's be smart possession, let's work the ball like we're supposed to. Okay, now we know how to do that. Now we have that to fall back on. All right, now you can risk that pass a little bit more because we're better positioned to deal with the potential counter. Now you can make that run off the ball because we're better positioned to deal if it turns over and you're out of position. Now you can take more chances because you're building a foundation, but you have to build the foundation first.
Yep. And I really do feel like the foundation has been poured. May not have completely set yet, but I think it's been poured. I think you can see the slab. Slab looks good, just needs to dry a little bit more. What do they say? Cure? Does it need to cure a little bit more? I'm not into like concrete and cement
I think that's
and
right.
Foundation work and stuff like that. It just needs to cure a little bit more, but it's been poured and it looks good.
Now, Mike, we had a question. Jason, I'm going to bring the question that you posed at the beginning of the show. I'm going to give it to Mike now.
Okay. And you were right on cure, by the way, Mike.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Well, I know like bacon needs to cure, but I can't
Yes.
remember with concrete or cement.
Hey, sounded good to me.
Okay.
there's a situation happening tonight in Copa Libertadores where a club is having to put a position player and start a position player in net because they only have 11 guys, and this is kind of what they have to do.
John, can I interrupt you, by the way?
Sure.
The Santa Fe team, Jason, is that the same Santa Fe that Seattle found a guy from this year? What's his name? I don't have my notes in front of me. I
believe it is Independiente Santa Fe in Colombia.
Yeah.
I believe Seattle did get a player from them in this year or last year.
Well, they have a player who played for Independiente Santa Fe on this year's team.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure if it was that one or if there's another one. But in working on Seattle, because John, I have been following this story, and I was like, wow, that's a real coincidence because Seattle has a guy from Independiente Santa Fe. So anyhow, please go ahead.
No, just if you could pick a position player that would be in net, who would you like to see as a position player between the sticks?
What, for Atlanta United?
Sure. I mean, that was, with a recent example, that's what we were looking at. We're looking at Atlanta United. We also talked about, European guys and things like that. We brought up Peter Crouch as an idea. Jarrett and I brought up Peter Crouch.
I disagree thoroughly. He's just tall. He can't get down. He's tall. I don't want him diving. He can't dive. He might break.
Yeah, and so Jason was thinking somebody like a Brooks Lennon. The Twitch pitch brought in Santi Sosa. We talked about Joseph a little bit. So if that situation was to be there, who would you like to see between the sticks in that situation?
Wow. Oh, boy. Well, so let me get on Team Crouch for a second because
you're all wrong.
The one thing that stands out to me about goalkeepers in general is that, look, there's always an emergency plan. If you're out of subs and God forbid something happened to your goalkeeper, you always have an emergency plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can put the gloves on a center back or the gloves on someone. You always have an emergency plan. We've always talked about what do we think the emergency plan would be for Atlanta United if, God forbid, they're out of subs and Brad got sent off or hurt or something like that. And to speak to your point on Crouch, I always think of, all right, well, who's the tallest guy on the pitch and who can move around the best in terms of leaping and diving? I have always thought that among the existing Atlanta United players, that's probably Miles Robinson, probably. In 2019, I would have thought, maybe Jeff Lorenowitz could have been in that conversation, perhaps, but unlikely because I just don't know laterally how well he moves. So, with this year's group, again, I tend to lean more towards what you and Jared are saying, John, where it's got to be someone who moves well laterally, who's tall, and can extend his body to cover more of the goal mouth. To me, that's Miles Robinson.
I am thoroughly disagreeing with all of you.
Okay.
And I will...
To me, it's Miles Robinson.
I will reiterate why I wouldn't do that. A couple of things. I wouldn't pull Miles out of the center back because I would want as much protection for whoever I'm sticking in there as possible. So I wouldn't want to disrupt that. The height helps you if you're training somebody to be a goalkeeper. I don't think it helps you in a pinch like this because you don't really know how to use it. I don't want you coming off the line to deal with crosses, period, if you're not ready to deal with it. I want somebody who's quick. I would want to keep the back line as stable as possible. If I have to pull a defender, I'd pull somebody from the outside because I can deal with that a little bit easier. Brooks Lennon's the guy for me that I would put in there because it would keep the strength in front of him.
Hold on. But we're talking about the beginning of the match. Like Independiente Santa Fe knows going into it tonight that this is the way it's going to be. So could you not have Franco and Walks as your center backs and Robinson as your goalkeeper?
Now, in that case, yes, if you have all of those and you have an additional center back, absolutely. Atlanta's would be in a different situation than River is. River's literally just trying to piece a team together. And they're having to go with Enzo Perez because he can't play on the field because he's injured. So they're putting a guy with a bulky hamstring in there because it's the best they can do. In a situation where you could do that, sure. If you had the ability to make, and if you had a sub, I'd hope you'd have a goalkeeper to be available to sub. But if you had all three of them on the pitch, then I'd consider it. Then you could go to two center backs and Robinson in goal. But in general, if you're out of subs and you have what you have on the field, if those three aren't on the pitch, I would go with Brooks or even somebody further up the field, because I don't want to disrupt what's in front of my stand-in goalkeeper.
Well, that all sounded like a good point, but my Wi-Fi made that sound like scrambled eggs.
That's what it was. It was garbage. It was total garbage. Hopefully the Wi-Fi will be good for stoppage time at 2:00.
I guess we're going to find out. I don't know. Maybe I'll be at Starbucks at 2:00 and I'll do it on their Wi-Fi. But yeah, 2:00 on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page, assuming I can find better Wi-Fi.
We will find Wi-Fi for Mike, or you might hear the disembodied voice of Mike on stoppage time today. We'll find a way to make it work. I think we
hopefully.
Lost. Oh, there
all
it
right,
is.
guys. Talk to you then.
One way or another, we'll get Mike. See you, Mike.
Bye.
Wi-Fi is giving Mike some problems. I will ask Mike for his Hawks stuff burned when we talk to him on stoppage time, and we'll definitely have No Swag Shop tomorrow with Mike and Andy to talk about the Hawks as they get ready for the postseason and all of that stuff. So,
real quick, the trivia question for Seattle was Yamar Gomez Andrade, and it was Union de Santa Fe,
which is not in Colombia either. Yeah, I saw that. That is Union is in Argentina. Yeah. So it was Santa Fe, but not the other. It's a Colombian center back. That's what threw me when I was like, yeah, okay, I know. Okay, Colombia. Okay, got it. But no, it's Union de Santa Fe, which is a whole different Santa Fe. Very tricky. Okay, we have another interview for you that we were able to catch up with Chris Allen from Atlanta United 2 yesterday. Probably haven't had a chance to hear from Allen yet. Young central midfielder coming out of college, joining the team for the first time. He's played in every game. He's been very influential in the holding midfield, and John and I spoke to Chris yesterday. Here it is.
Time to catch up with the pride of South Shields, England, and find out how @ChrisAllen10 on Twitter ended up with Atlanta United 2 through the University of Charleston. Chris, thanks for hanging out with Jason and myself. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to chat.
All right. So how did @ChrisAllen with an A10 end up from South Shields, England to the University of Charleston in West Virginia?
So I started out my footballing career at Sunderland, AFC, which is very, very close to South Shields, where I was born and grew up. Played there for 13 years. I started there when I was 7 years old. Made it all the way up to the under 23s. Had a few little setbacks with injuries in my last few years, and eventually decided to take that plunge and fly 4,000 miles away across the pond on a scholarship. That landed me in West Virginia. The coach there at the time was English, and I had already met him through a connection with the Premier League to try and sort of have a feeler of if players wanted to go over to the States or whether to try and find contracts in the UK. And I ended up trusting Daniel Stratford is his name, as the coach at the time at Charleston. And yeah, I started in 2018 of the fall season. Had another setback with the NCAA and was actually banned for 28 games and had to do some community service hours on me eligibility, which was a little bit tough when I first flew over. But I got through it. And then played for Asheville, which was my first actually playing season in the US, was in the NPSL. They were at the time, Asheville City Soccer Club, under Mick Giordano. I loved that. That was my first experience of playing in the US. That was a great time over the summer. Then went back to Charleston, West Virginia, the D2 school, in fall of 2019. Sat out my last roughly seven games I think I had left from the ban. Played and started in every game since then. We made a run to the national final and ended up winning in 2019, which is a great experience, and Stratford. Then the COVID hit, which was just, absolutely crazy. I don't think anyone could have foreseen something like that. Ended up flying back home under lockdown in the UK, which is a little bit tough, but I kept taking over. And by that time, I was in my last year of school. So I was already planning on my sort of future in football, in soccer, and what I wanted to do, which was try and hopefully make it to the next level. So I ended up flying back in August of 2020, and I just finished school online. I didn't actually go to school, and I just started training in Asheville. And then I got a phone call from Tony with a trial at Atlanta, which I was really, really pleased about. Got myself sorted, got myself as fit as I could, drove down, and I think I was on trial for 4 to 6 weeks, possibly. And then there was interest in October, November time. Ended up deciding to play for Atlanta United 2 and sign a contract there for January. So I already had sort of the contract in the works before Christmas, which was really, really nice to have a breather before I had to, find a club for the season, because that was what I was planning to do, whether it would be USL 1 or USL Championship or whatnot.
I love your connection to Asheville City. It's a place that we've had a chance to visit for a game day, and we've talked to those guys as they've built their club through NPSL and now USL League 2. What was it like for you? Is that your first soccer experience in the United States, playing in front of a great fan base in Asheville, North Carolina?
Yeah, it was something I wasn't expecting one bit. Before obviously going there and deciding to play for Asheville for the summer, I had a little bit of an idea of sort of what the club was like, the close community that they are, and the fan base that attends games. But until you actually go and see and experience it yourself in just the home stadium, Memorial Stadium, it was a real eye opener of how well it's really put together up in Asheville. Yeah.
So how much of an eye-opener has it been for you coming from Asheville, that 4 hours down here, to be a part of things with Atlanta United 2 so far?
Well, I mean, Atlanta's just on another spectrum in terms of size, obviously the professionalism. If you take away the football size, in terms of, it's just a way bigger city, bigger community, an even bigger fan base. So, yeah. And then in terms of the football side, going from Asheville to Atlanta, again, it's just that next step up with more organized teams, stronger players, faster players. So, yeah, it's the speed of play as well. There's all the sort of differences, between Asheville and Atlanta United.
So far, every game on the road for the Twos and some good results on the road out in Oklahoma. How has it been for you being one of the older players in the group with a lot of young up-and-coming players around you?
Yeah, sometimes it's funny. Yeah, I forget about that. And I have to, and I'm constantly reminded by the coaches, organize. I have to be the organizer. All the older players have to be the leaders on the pitch, which is something that I need to put in my game a lot more. So yeah, I mean, right now, just starting out, it's been a funny experience, but I'm learning more and more. But yeah.
Well, when it came to coming out of college, heading into Asheville, and now to Atlanta United too, what parts of your game did you think that you needed to continue to work on to hone your craft as a professional? I mean, obviously, you were looking at your game continuing to mature, but what else did you think that you needed to work on, and you're getting the chance to work on that now?
Yeah, so as a holding midfield player, when I first came to Atlanta, they wanted to see, you have to do them defensive duties as a holding midfield player. All of the second balls, reading the game because most of it is in front of you, interceptions, all of that side is a non-negotiable, and we always work hard at Atlanta United. We're a high pressing team, and we're always running, we're always working. But it's that other side as a holding midfield player, still being very, very positive with the ball and going forward as much as I can, and working with the players around me in centre midfield, and even out wide sometimes with them rotations, especially for playing out from the back, is something that I've had to work on since coming in. So, yeah.
Have you had a chance to interact much with the first team, and what have you gained from those experiences so far?
Yeah, so Gabby incorporates the twos and a lot of the academy boys in training, and it's a great experience to move up and just stand, learn, listen as to sort of what is expected up with the first team, the sort of philosophy around what Gabby wants in his team, and then also trying to bring that down to the twos and being an older player and working with the academy boys to try and emphasize what Heinz does up on a training day into our games. But it's definitely a great experience to be able to go up there and see what it's about. Yeah.
So looking at the first three matches of the year so far, visit to Louisville, 2 visits to Oklahoma City, and it's been all across the spectrum, win, loss, draw. From what you've been able to see from your place there on the pitch, what are some of your takeaways from the early part of the season here for Atlanta United 2 so far?
I think, so if you look back into the training and being up with Gabriel, it's not been a difficult start, but it's been hectic in terms of being with the first team and seeing what that's about, and with the squad changing regularly between Louisville and the 2 Oklahomas. You have to adapt quickly in Atlanta too, definitely. But as the games have went on, I think we've looked a lot more comfortable in possession. I think we are creating more already since Louisville. But even from Louisville, in terms of defensively, we've never lost sight of the philosophy of the work hard, we press. And I think from the start of the season, we've adopted that from Gabby, and it's been great from the off. We just set pieces, I think, obviously, in Oklahoma, and even Louisville, is something that we probably need to improve on as a team. But for conceding goals outside of set pieces, I think we've been very, very good. We've been very disciplined with that. Everyone knows their role. And I look forward to seeing how well we can do in the upcoming games.
It felt like this past weekend was a little bit of a turning point for both teams. For the first team with a late winner, and for Atlanta United 2 with that late equalizer from Tyler Wolff. What was the vibe from the team after that equalizer and salvaging that result?
Oh, I mean, of course, it was really good. Because all game we felt like we didn't deserve to be down. And with the first team dominating the way that they do in big parts of the game, I think, it was a relief, but also just it was just a real good buzz to be able to get something out of it. Even though we didn't get 3 points like the first team, it was still a good result in the end, and it's definitely something to build on. So it was a really good feeling at the end of the game.
And so, of course, this time around, it's the team that's at the top of the ladder right now in FC Tulsa. Coming up next, it's going to be a home match, and obviously the good feelings attached there. What have you seen? What do you know? What are you anticipating with the folks who are at the top of the division standings right now?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, dominating. I think they're on the ball, probably one of the best teams, if not the best team in the conference of what everyone's seen so far. So possession-wise, it might be something that we need to look into for Tulsa. But yeah, I mean, it's as long as we stick to our philosophy, I think at home, with it being the home opener, and with the results in the past seasons that I've seen at Atlanta United too, we always put on a good show at Kennesaw. It's a great pitch. It's a great stadium. So I'm really, everyone is looking forward to the game, no matter who it was to be against. It's definitely something that everyone is looking forward to, and I think it'll be a very good game to watch.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot, Chris. So I'm the color commentator. So a lot of times we have to feature a player and give an interesting story about them that the fans might not know. If I'm featuring Chris Allen tomorrow, what is an interesting story that Atlanta United fans might not know about you that they should?
Yeah, you put us on the spot here. I have no idea.
But he's got a very loud cat.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh no, it's all good.
Good.
The
boss is in that apartment.
Yeah, definitely. She can be loud. Yeah, he wants to go outside.
If there was something that folks that you would surprise folks, you go to lunch. There's a table of 5 or 6 folks there, and they're each telling something about themselves. What do you think would be the most surprising thing that you could tell the folks who are sitting with you at that table that you're meeting for the first time? That you're good at something. There's a hidden talent. There's a guilty pleasure on television, something like that. What would that be?
Talents, I'd say I'm quite good in the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, just putting it out there.
All right.
Favorite. Okay, then I'll ask you, favorite dish to cook up. If you're going to impress somebody with your cooking skills, what are you doing?
I think to impress someone, it'd have to be a steak dish.
Okay.
Yeah, but not before a game. No red meat before a game.
Of course. We don't want Tony to get upset. He'll be good. He'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go through this dish here. So it's a steak dish. What's the courses here? What are we looking at?
Oh, courses?
How big is steak? What's the sides? I mean, how are you making the steak? Do you have a special sauce? What are we talking about here?
No, you don't need sauce when you make a good steak.
John's not so good in the kitchen, Chris.
Yeah,
you'll learn this as we go.
You don't need sauce. I mean, I always like to pair it with asparagus.
Good call.
Yeah. Maybe Parma ham wrapped asparagus. Yeah, there's always a nice combination. Roasted potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
what's dessert?
I'm not really a dessert man, to be honest. I don't think I have much of a sweet tooth. Maybe some fruit and yogurt. I mean, I'm really not. I'm not pulling the bag out on dessert.
You got me with the asparagus. That's a good call. That's always a good pair with the steak.
And the wrapped asparagus too. I mean, that's definitely thinking next level. Well, Chris, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for letting us into your kitchen in more ways than one, and letting us know that you are the gourmet chef right now until further notice for Atlanta United 2 this season. It's great to see you driving things there at driver 8 back there in the midfield. Thanks for hanging out with us here in Soccer Down Here.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Always good to catch up with Chris Allen, and now Chris Allen knows that I'm not good in the kitchen.
Asking about what kind of sauce you're going to make for the steak. Come on, man.
The word I guess the word I was trying to think of was marinade.
You don't even have to do that. You can, but you don't have to. Nick's yelling at you already. I knew it was coming. I did not expect. I was trying to get something unique out of Chris, and we did, which was great. Chris was a great sport with everything.
Yes.
I did not expect to see it turn to another John cooking debacle element, and it did. Bonus.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Absolute bonus.
But and the other bonus and now I want to know if the cat was allowed to go outside after the interview.
I would assume so, and that's another thing for Chris is he was distracted by the poor cat.
That
just
cat
kept going.
I give Chris a lot of credit for sticking with it with that cat being as loud as it was.
Yes,
full credit for being locked in on the interview with us, and and about tonight against FC Tulsa. I mean, it's going to be a tough test for Chris and that back line because we heard from Tony in hour number 1 and hearing from Chris here in hour number 2. It's going to be their toughest test to date, I think. And Chris is going to be right in the middle of it all.
Yeah, if you hear me call him the chef, now you know why, because of that interview.
The chef's Chris. There you go.
Everybody else will be massively confused, but you guys will get it. You guys also, during that interview, if you were in the Twitch pitch, saw that to have a special occasion, since the Twos are having their home opener tonight, we have unveiled in our Teespring store, and John will tweet the link from Soccer Down Here in just a bit, our new Action at the Fraction shirt. It's available for you to purchase. Thank you to Hudson, the Mile High 17. As you guys might know him. Hudson came up with an awesome design for it, and the Action at the Fraction shirt is now available for you to grab. It came out great. Hudson was awesome in putting this together. So, yes, hashtag Action at the Fraction.
Okay. Very well done. And so that's going to be a fun one, and that's going to be added to the stacks here at Office HD. So, great thoughts from Hudson in putting this together. And, with it being the home opener, it's being unveiled at the right time. And so good stuff there. And thank you to Hudson, by the way, for putting the brain power into the Action at the Fraction t-shirt.
Okay. Ricky reminds us that it is Joseph Martinez's birthday, as the club has tweeted out today as well. I did not know it was Joseph Martinez's birthday. That's why it didn't lead the show, Ricky. Joseph is hoping for goals to celebrate his birthday this weekend. That's what he is looking for. What's been cool about Joseph in Atlanta is last night, for example, he was at the Braves game. He has really thrown himself into the city, and you don't get that every time you have a player come to town who's new. Sometimes guys keep to themselves. Sometimes guys don't really become embedded in the city as a whole. Joseph has done that, and he loves this place. He's always popping up at Braves games, at Hawks games, and he loves the people of Atlanta. It's been really cool to see that happen, and it's unique because I think a lot of people from the outside are like, oh, somebody's going to come in and buy Joseph Martinez from Atlanta, and he's going to go, and it's only a matter of time, and I don't know if it is. I really don't. I mean, if an elite club comes in with an offer that he can't say no to, of course. And that could happen because it can happen to anybody. But I don't think he is seeking that. I don't think he is looking for that right now. I think he's very happy being in this city. I think he's very happy being a part of this club. And I think he wants to be here for a long time. I really do. You never know what can happen in this game. People didn't expect Harry Kane to say he wanted to leave Tottenham, but it sounds like he is saying that now. Anything can happen, but I think Joseph is in the right place for him. He's in the right place for his career, and he's in a place that loves him, and he's in a place that he loves too.
And I mean, you've seen it, and the video that popped up the other day where the little girl came in under the security line and just runs up and gives the big hug to Joseph, and Joseph is hugging her back, and he's wearing the mask, and he's in the procession, and he's walking with her and takes her back. And you look at the mom or the relative that was there, and she's just the eyes are absolutely wide that the little girl went in under the line and grabbed Joseph, and Joseph just is all part of the deal. Big hug, and just walks her right back over. And so it's one of those moments of cool that you get to add to what we're seeing with Joseph here in town.
Yeah. Now, not on the fun side of things. This came out last night in USL Championship. New York Red Bulls 2 played at Loudoun United, and I was waiting to get a little more information, and we do have that. So after the match, Mandela Egbo, who's on loan from the first team with the Red Bulls to the second team, quote tweeted a highlight of a penalty goal, and he said, as the quote tweet, "One of our young strikers kept his ultimate cool when monkey chants were aimed at him by these same section of fans behind the goal. I would hope that audio from the whole second half footage is being listened to very, very closely by the powers that be at USL Championship." Further support for these allegations were provided by two other players, Austin Brummett and Jeremy Raffanello. Loudoun United has issued a statement this morning, a few minutes ago, that they've been made aware of the social media post. Loudoun United FC do not condone any form of offensive or discriminatory language or behavior from any fan associated with our club, and thank the member of Red Bulls 2 for bringing awareness to this. The club are working diligently to investigate the situation and will act swiftly and firmly as this behavior is in direct conflict with our Segra Field Code of Conduct. Any fan in attendance found to be involved in this matter will be held accountable for their abhorrent behavior and served a lifetime ban from all future Loudoun United FC matches and events at Segra Field. Yes, 100%. That is the right way to handle it. Find out who did this. They should be able to do that with cameras and audio footage, I would hope. And I would go a step further. Loudoun United is attached to DC United. They shouldn't be allowed to go to Audi Field and do this nonsense either.
Yep.
I don't know legally if they can pull that off. That's going to be down for the lawyers to sort out. I would absolutely try to make that stick. I would go ahead and force the issue and try to make it stick. And if the individual who gets banned from Segra Field and Loudoun United or individuals is able to fight that about Audi Field, well, then good on them. They had to pay a lot of money to get that done. Ban them. And I like that Loudoun United is not having any kind of other thing than a lifetime ban once they identify who this is. I have not listened to the clip. I saw this right before it came on. The clip, Egbo says, I mean, he's not saying the clip is it, but there was a little bit of speculation that you could hear noises in the clip.
Yeah.
But his tweet isn't saying this is where you hear it. He's saying listen to the entire second half. Yeah. So there could be, I'm assuming he heard it at other points. I don't know if he was trying to say this and others or what. But anyway, Loudoun United has said thank you for posting that, and we're going to find this person.
Yeah, and I went and I listened to the attached segment that was put in with that particular tweet, but now I will go back and listen to the entire second half to see if you can pick it up with the microphones there at Segra as well.
And the question, and we have no way to know how they produce or what their setup is. If you're getting audio from that section, and it's the section behind the goal, as Egbo says,
right?
If you have field mics there, I don't know if you would be able to go back and isolate it. I don't know what kind of footage they would have that might be isolated for that. But you're going to go back and calm that footage for everything you have, and you're going to try to put audio with pictures and video of who it could be. They need to leave no stone unturned in this.
Yeah, what you're doing is you're hoping that the cameras that were shooting their individual shots, that audio was put into a central device, and that you can pull that particular camera and pull that particular section away from everything else. And so it's isolating the video and the audio that's attached to it. And that's also, if you can isolate it, and if it wasn't just wiped out from the actual feed once that camera wasn't taken. And so there are a lot of TV production things that you would have to look at here to see if that footage still existed, and then isolate it, and then literally combing over a camera shot for an entire 90 minutes.
I think with the statement, they're also hoping that maybe people come out and say, yeah, it was this person.
Yeah.
I don't think that's by accident either. And I hope that this gets handled correctly and swiftly, because it's embarrassing to the game as a whole. It's awful for anybody to have to deal with this. It's an embarrassment for the whole club, Loudoun and DC, and it's something they've got to wipe out quickly to take a stand. It can't be allowed to sit and linger.
Absolutely. Sean Vergara is wanting to know if we talked about all the Kane to Manchester City stuff. Pep was asked twice about it last night and just seemed very annoyed about it.
It is very annoying because it's out there. Fabrizio Romano said that the desire to leave is confirmed. He hasn't handed in a transfer request. He's trying to find a solution. Tottenham's position right now, according to Romano, is there is no intention to sell Harry Kane. Kane would refuse a new contract as of today, and according to Fabrizio Romano, Manchester City are seriously interested, planning to open talks. Pep's not going to have that conversation right now. He's trying to prepare for a Champions League final. The Times, Matt Loughton and Paul Hurst said that Manchester City is Kane's preferred destination, and Manchester City will make a new effort this week to urge the Tottenham chairman to sell him in the summer. There's been a lot of talk that they want to get it done before the Euros. That's going to be really difficult to do. I think this thing lingers for a long time, sadly, and I don't know where it goes. If he wants to leave, Tottenham should sell.
Yes.
I really, truly believe that. I think he's given that club everything. And beyond just, you don't want to try to force a player who doesn't want to be there to stay, and what that can do to your team. And Tottenham has experience with this, by the way, with what they did at the end of the Champions League final team that then carried over into the next season. You could tell people were frustrated, angry. There were people who wanted out. There were people who wanted new contracts. All kinds of issues that broke Maurizio Pochettino's time there and led to where you're at now. So they shouldn't repeat that. He wants to go, and they can't convince him to stay. And absolutely try, but try quickly, and then get it done. And If Manchester City's going to cut you a fat check, take that money and go and rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And figure out who your manager's going to be, by the way. That's kind of important. And that search is continuing on. David Heitner of The Guardian wrote that Tottenham have spoken to candidates, and he says they have spoken to Hansi Flick, formerly of Bayern Munich, expected to take over the German national team. Heitner says that Tottenham has spoken to Flick. Still seems like he's going to take over that German job. There's also been a conversation with Ralf Rangnick, but it's unclear whether that was about a director position or the managerial job. Jason Nick says the Suns stay if and when Kane leaves. That's the next one. We haven't heard anything yet, so we don't know. Badger, from the Spurs side of things, says they have experience selling Bale and reloading. It didn't go well. Still doesn't trust Levy and crew. I mean, I don't know what else you do, though, if you're Tottenham. If he doesn't want to stay and he wants to go, they have to sell. They have to do right with the money they bring in. The fact that they didn't before doesn't mean you hold on to him. It just means you learn and you do better. It has to. I would expect, and Badger says the same, that Son, if Kane is going to go, that Son would leave too, or want to leave.
Yes.
And that gets a little more confusing about the timeline of when that happens. Because if the Kane thing lingers on and doesn't get done until late, and then Son says, well, now you got to get rid of me too, like tomorrow, how can you make all of this work? That's why Tottenham needs to be proactive and not hold on to things that aren't going to happen. Burns says, Flick, should I coach the German national team or Tottenham?
Yeah.
It's an easy one.
And Son signed a 2-year contract extension July 2019, taking his deal to the summer of 2024. So that's where he is too.
Don't care. If he wants to go, he's going to say he wants to go.
And the last thing you want is your top 2 stars sitting there and not being interested in wanting to play for you. And when we were doing the math, what are we looking at for the 2, like 225-ish?
You'd love it.
Now?
I don't know if you pull it, but you'd love it. You're going to get, the longer it goes, you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to take what you can get or deal with somebody who's not happy. And that's going to affect everybody else in the club. That's the problem, is it becomes infectious. Get the money now and go and spend it. Don't get it at the last minute and not really be able to spend it, or panic buy and then ruin it. Like, get it as soon as you can. If Manchester City wants to drop $150 million on you for this, try to get 200. Sure, ask it. Get as much as you can. Get that check. Get it before the Euros so you can watch the Euros and say, I like that guy. I like this guy. I like this guy. And you can actually go and get your managerial hire done too. And you can, in my opinion, be a far more attractive proposition for a Hansi Flick or a Ralf Rangnick or whoever if you say, yes, last year we had Harry Kane, we had Son, we did this. This is what we've done with those guys up to now. Now you come in and, oh yeah, by the way, here's a bucket of money that is going to be not yours to spend however you want, but yours to have input on how we spend. Do you want the job? That's going to be a more appealing situation than coming into, well, Kane doesn't really want to be here. You're going to have to convince him.
Discontent's the last thing
Son
you want.
doesn't really want to be here because Kane doesn't really want to be here. Now he wants to leave. Do you want the job? It's not as appealing that way. Get it done. Get it. If you can get anything for Dele Alli, get it, because he probably doesn't want to be there. Mourinho broke him. If maybe you can convince him now and say, hey, we got rid of that guy. He didn't like you. You do need to train harder. We do need more professionalism out of you, Dele, but we're going to give you another chance. Because there's probably not a line of people waiting to get Dele Alli at this point. So you might be able to reinvigorate him, maybe, possibly. But you get as much money as you can, and then you say to those potential managers, hey, you're going to have a chance to be involved in spending this. You want the job?
Yep.
That's a more appealing way. I don't think Ralf Rangnick and Levy get along. I don't think it works, Nick. I don't see that one working at all. I don't think Levy gives up enough control. I think Ralph would end up getting mad in 6 months, maybe 3. I just don't get it. I just don't get that one at all. It would take a change of personality from Levy to do it, I think. Could be wrong. And maybe he's learned, and maybe he says, you know what? And he said it today in a statement kind of about, they've been distracted by the stadium and the financials with that. Maybe he says, you know what? I've got enough to do on the stadium side, on the business side. I've got to focus all my energy on that. Let me hire somebody, and Ralph as a sporting director would probably be the better way to go. But here you go. Like, you're going to have to get my approval on things, but I'm not going to be involved as much as I have been. I got to do the business. You rebuild the team. Here's a large amount of money to go do it. Maybe that's the way to do it.
A couple of other things on Twitter to catch us up on the Twitter side.
Yeah.
Matt Wagner, 2 questions. 1, any word on the Franco knock from Saturday?
No, we're not going to hear anything until Gabriel Heinze speaks to the media. I think that's something right now with, training being limited without like seeing people day to day. You're not going to get this information. And honestly, if I'm Gabriel Heinze, I'm going to tell you as little as possible ahead of that game in Seattle, because with them playing 2 up top, if I have Alan Franco, Anton Walkes, and Miles Robinson, that gives me an opportunity to play Santi Sosa further up the field. If I don't have Alan Franco, that means I'm probably playing Santi Sosa as a third center back or sitting very deep, and I don't want to give them any info. I don't want to tip my hand on that. So, and same with Barco and Dom, even though we're not expecting it, I'm not going to tip my hand. I think Friday it's going to be, probably, and I could be wrong, but probably a lot of they've worked this week. We'll have to make a decision on Sunday as to whether they'll be available. That's the way I would spin it. I'm not giving them anything.
And the second question from Matt, he says, it's unfortunate about Lisandro Lopez. Do you see the team filling his supplemental slot?
Supplemental spots are a little tricky. And yeah, I can't say it's a surprise that Lisandro Lopez is going to go back to Argentina and his contract has been mutually terminated with the club and him. He's not in a position to where he wants to play right now. And I totally understand that. I get it. So, I mean, the most important thing here is, it's a shame what Lisandro and his family is going through, and I just hope all is well with him and the family. That's the most important element. On the Atlanta United side, this is the best way to do it rather than waiting to see if he's able to come back in 2 months or 3 months or whatever. It does free you up. The window is open. You do have a supplemental spot to work with. It is a supplemental spot. There's a lot of limitations there in terms of salary. Could they fill it? Sure. I don't know exactly with what or who at the moment, but it gives you the ability to do it in the next couple of weeks before the window closes. So it gives the club flexibility. We'll see if they're able to get something done. I don't think it's critical, to be perfectly honest. I think it does open a door maybe a little bit for Jackson Conway, who was about to come into the match on Saturday, did not at the last minute. I think he was on the sideline in the last 5 minutes of regulation time. He was ready to check in right around the 90th minute and was pulled back. So he's pushed his way into that point. If I'm playing the role of Gabriel Heinze for a second, I'm having the conversation with him yesterday as to, you're going to start tomorrow night against Tulsa with Atlanta United 2, and I need you to show me why you should be in the rotation to play up top on Sunday, and put that on him. And that opens up that door to where maybe you don't need to go spend that spot in that position. Maybe you go use that supplemental spot somewhere else if you want to, or you wait until the summer window. Because right now you're dealing with a lot of guys who would be out of contract somewhere and available on a free, or somebody that a club would let leave right now. And you do have seasons coming to an end in Europe, so there could be a possibility there. I think out of South America it'd be almost impossible to get anybody. And again, there's huge salary limitations on that supplemental spot. So it's not going to be a transformative spot. They were very lucky to get somebody of Lisandro Lopez's stature to go into that spot on the roster for the amount of money, for the opportunity, for the experience. Now it's going to be tough to replicate that again.
Rich Ransom catching up from yesterday on the topic where we were promoting the idea of playing big rivalry games in larger venues than the soccer stadium would originally give you. Mm-hmm. He says, it's perfect. Tommy knows I'm the president of the union should play games at the Link supporters group, but know from talking to fans and officials in the team's front office it'll be next to impossible to happen. Most importantly, the Eagles would destroy the union in rent. They pretty much gain 90% in game day revenue from Temple when they play college games there.
Yeah, it'd have to be financially viable. If it's not, you don't do it. Is there somewhere else that they could do it in Philly and actually make it financially viable? That I don't know. I know there's a couple other venues, but I don't know if you could make them fit or work. And we're not going to go deep into it and do a deep dive because, Rich, Tommy, you guys are going to have to give me that information. If it's not financially viable, they shouldn't do it. You don't do it just to do it. You got to be able to make some money at it. And if you can't, then it's not worth it.
Tafka brings in the news story, the proposal from Saudi Arabia to stage the World Cup every 2 years.
Okay, why and what and why are we listening to this?
Yeah.
Well, is there more to it than just...
Well, I mean, Tariq Panja has a thread on it.
Okay.
He says, World Cup under Infantino has been expanded to 48, an unruly number, but one that gives more teams the chance to qualify. Mm-hmm. And it goes into the Saudi Arabia idea.
All about those Benjamins. What's the idea?
Well, just to stage the World Cup every 2 years. Panja says much of the value and interest in the World Cup derived from the fact it's rare. When Panja questions it by saying, what would playing the tournament every 2 years do to that scarcity factor in a world where more is never enough? Would FIFA prefer an annual World Cup?
Well, you can't. You literally can't do that and have a qualification process. So you're going kind of back against what you were doing by expanding it to where more countries got an opportunity to play. You can't. Even 2 years is going to be really difficult because it's going to affect the European Championships, the Copa America, the Gold Cup, the African Cup of Nations, the Asian Cup. It's going to affect all of those because they won't be able to do them. Or they'll have to be used as qualification processes, and then that gets complicated. And there was originally talk for a while about doing the Women's World Cup every 2 years.
Yeah.
I can somewhat buy that because you don't have the continental championships that have the same level of importance on the women's side than you do on the men's. I still don't like it. On the men's side, I think it's asinine because I just don't think you can logistically make it work. Going to 48, I don't like the format for 48, by the way. I don't like that you only get 2 games guaranteed. I'm not a fan of the way they did it. I think they could have done it differently. You're going to go to 48, then still do groups of 4, play 3 games. You get a normal routine of it. I would have much rather done that. But you're not. So I'm okay with going to 48. I don't love it. I hate the way they're doing it. But I'm okay because it does open the door to more. Now, it does create a situation where, for example, South American World Cup qualifying is kind of useless because a lot of South American teams are going to go to the World Cup. It's not as exciting as it used to be. CONCACAF won't be as exciting as it used to be. The Hex loses its value because you're going to have to change it, and it's not going to work in the same way. And you don't get those U.S.-Mexico meaningful games. That's going to hurt the United States and Mexico. Those games help you get better. They don't. They are money makers. They are a big deal, but they help you get better. And if you're, essentially guaranteed, or your World Cup comes down to beating a Guatemala or, a Jamaica in those situations, they should win those games. And that's not as challenging. The challenge is what helps you get better. So going to 48 is even risky, but I think they can make it work. Doing it every 2 years is craziness. It's craziness. It doesn't make any sense, and you do more damage than good. So, no. If you're going to do 48, do it correctly with 48, and absolutely re-envision the way you do qualification. Completely alter the way you do qualification to where there are more interzonal games to decide who goes. Because then you maintain importance of qualification in regions, and you create high stakes, winner takes all in 2 legs games. Let's say you keep everything the way it is, and let's go back to 2018. The U.S. misses out on the qualification spot, so they don't even get the play-in spot that was already there, the 4th spot. They get the 5th spot. So that means they've got to go into a home and away with Croatia to qualify, or a home and away with Chile to qualify, or something like that. That's amazing. And that is the better sell if you want to do this. If you want to do it and make more money. Do your 48 teams, but get to that point where qualification is almost what it is now, but then those teams that miss out on the current setup, they go into an interzonal playoff for those new spots. And yeah, you might end up with 20 European teams in. Cool, if they win, fine, I don't care. You want the best teams in this thing. You want to give everybody an opportunity, but if you're going to expand it, put those spots up for grabs from the teams who would miss out in the current way. That would be better for them. I mean, could you imagine if you created, even if you want to do it in a neutral site, if you want that to replace your Confederations Cup? I know they want to do an expanded Club World Cup to do that, but if you create a play-in tournament like the NBA's doing, create a play-in tournament for 26, create a play-in tournament in the summer of 25 or even the winter of 25. You could do that here. And you create a play-in tournament where you bring 24 teams, whatever the number is, figure it out. I'm not going to figure out the formats right here on the fly. But whatever your number is, 16, 24 teams, whatever, they're coming to playoff for the final spots in the World Cup. And if it's a bracket, if it's a group stage, whatever you want to do it. Bank. Make the bank, but do it the right way. Don't rush 2 tournaments in and cut the European Championships and Copa America and the others off at the kneecaps and dilute it. You can make it even more special and more exciting. Do it.
Yeah, Sepp Blatter apparently came up with that idea about over 20 years ago. It was revived in 2018 by South American football leader Alejandro Dominguez, a FIFA VP who was then a close ally of Gianni Infantino. And then it was for the idea that both the Men's World Cup and the Euros could be staged every 2 years was raised in March by Arsene Wenger. Wenger and Dominguez used the argument that players deserve more chances to play in World Cups.
That's not the right argument, because then they lose out on playing in the Euros. Then they lose out on playing in Copa America, and they lose out on other things. So no, I'm not buying that. You can do 48 and enhance it as a better way of getting what you want, which is more money ultimately, rather than cutting off your Confederations championships, which would be bad for the game. So no, I think it's a dumb idea. I think it's a very dumb idea, and I don't think it really gets anywhere, because I think your UEFAs and your CONMEBOLs and CONCACAFs and the rest will push back on it, because they'll lose money in that deal.
Just you mentioned the numbers real quick. Each World Cup earns FIFA up to $6 billion in broadcasting and commercial deals. The Euro 2016 earned UEFA around $2.3 billion.
And UEFA doesn't want to give that money up. It's not about it being less. It's the fact that UEFA doesn't get the $6 billion that FIFA gets for the World Cup. UEFA gets their 2.3 for the Euros. They need that 2.3. So they don't want to give that up by having another World Cup every 2 years, which would then eliminate the Euros or move it into something else and make it less important. So they're not going to go for that unless they're going to get a cut of the check, and then it changes everything and all that. But you can, in my opinion, because FIFA would have to pay them off. Let's say they do it. I don't think they're going to be making 6 every time. I think it's going to dilute it. So let's say they make 5 every time. But then they're going to have to pay the confederations to give up their championships or dilute their championships. So then you're going to make less of that 5 than you would have if you create a new competition in that play-in tournament that can make you, 1.5, $2 billion on your own in a new competition to get into the World Cup. That'd be huge. That'd be huge. That'd be the way to do it. Come on, FIFA. Don't be stupid.
And to catch us up on Twitter, you mentioned how you didn't like the new layout. Tafka says, were groups of 6, 5 matches, 2 advancing from each group to the round of 16 simply undoable? That's a question.
I'd have to go through the logistics. That'd be more matches. It'd be a lot of matches. It would severely limit the number of countries that could hold it, which I think you're already at anyway, to be perfectly honest. The structure of the 32-team tournament, it limits. There's just not a lot of places that can hold it on their own. It would make you do more of what I think you're going to do anyway, which is have multiple country tournaments, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it. But it would make it more difficult to manage because there'd be so many more games, and you need more stadiums and more TV time slots, and it might be tough. I would think you could do something where you'd have to come down to, second place teams getting in. But if you did 12 groups of 4, the group winners go through, that gets you to 12, and you want to add 4 more for a round of 16. It makes it really tough to get into the knockouts, which increases the interest. You do get more games, which would equal more money, possibly from TV, but not an unwieldy number. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the magic sauce is. Like 32, you can make it work because it's easy. Top 2 go. You go past that, you're going to get tricky again. But you were tricky before, where you had third-place teams in group stage go into the knockout. So that's possible too. I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to really do a lot of math and do a lot of configurations. It's a challenge when you're dealing with all that money and wanting to make more.
We are officially caught up on Twitter, sir.
All right, final questions from the Twitch pitch as we wrap up. Some other things on the board today. Interesting situation last night with Franco Fragapane of Talleres, who is headed to Minnesota. He was in the starting lineup and played over 70 minutes last night. Andy Greeter of the Pioneer Press said that the Loons were not expecting that to be the case. Well, Talleres was trying to get into the next round of the Copa Sudamericana, and they did not because they lost to Red Bull Bragantino. So now they're out. A win would have given them a chance to advancing into the knockout rounds. So they played one of their best players in a game that mattered. I don't know if they were not on the same page or what. They should have been. That should have been understood. That had actually been discussed before. I had seen it in media reports. Maybe it changed. Either way, it's not a shock to me. Minnesota has tweeted this morning that they have an announcement to make. I don't know if they have actually made said
They
announcement.
have made said announcement.
Okay, and it is what we expect it to be, right?
Franco Fragapane, a 4-year contract using TAM. He will join the Loons pending a physical, receipt of his P1 visa, and ITC completion of league-mandated quarantine. Additionally, Fragapane will occupy an international spot on Minnesota's roster, quotes below.
Well, yeah, that's a duh, because he's coming from Argentina, so no shock there. Yeah, I mean, Talleres doesn't want to give him up until they can't move on in Sudamericana. That makes total sense. They've also, in Minnesota, been able to sort out Robin Lod, Jukka Rajatala, and Jan Gregush, who are all going to play in the European Championships this summer, to be able to play in the May 29th game against RSL, because they were trying to be called up by their national teams to play in friendlies before the Euros. Minnesota was able to work that out to where they don't give them up yet. They'll play on the 29th and then go. Albert Rusnak of Slovakia is also going to play in that match for RSL before joining up with the national team. Now, Adrian Hunau and Fragapane will have to go through the 7-day self-isolation for COVID. They are both hoping. Adrian Heath has said he would be, what did he say? Disappointed if both of them are not available for the game on the 29th. I would be surprised if they were able to get their visa and everything sorted out, unless they were doing it beforehand and they were able to work all this out. I don't know how exactly, but if they're able to get Fragapane and Hunau to play on the 29th, the quarantine part, the 7-day quarantine, would work out. They'd have a training session or two and then play. We'll just have to see how that goes. People are saying, Sean Vergara says, Loons have 4 designated players now. I don't think they're I don't think they're Miami. So let's see real quick before we get into other questions exactly what this means for the Loons, because Hunau is a designated player. Fragapane, did they announce he is a designated player? Let's make sure.
Fragapane in the release will occupy an international slot, did not mention DP.
So he is not. So then they are not with those designated players. Yeah. They have 2 in Gregush and Reynoso, and now Hunau.
Yeah, 4-year contract using TAM.
There you go. So he's a TAM. So no, Sean Vergara, don't start the lies about Minnesota. They are not trying to subterfuge anybody. I don't think. We don't have any history of subterfuge from the Loons. We do have Miami, and they haven't been punished for it yet. So, if Minnesota wanted to go down that road, I would go for it.
And apparently they're chasing Marcelo.
Yeah, and he would probably have to come on a non-designated player deal, and would he do that? And Miami's been linked to everybody, and this is something you can't forget what we talked about with Atlanta. Atlanta was linked to everybody for a while.
Yes.
Everybody out of South America was linked to Atlanta. They still are. I mean, Moises Caicedo was linked to an unnamed MLS club. Atlanta made sense. It checked all the boxes. We don't know if Atlanta actually put that offer out there. We don't know. But Miami is going to be linked to every European player possible. Because, 1, the agents want to use that to get money on their side of the pond. And 2, Miami's shown a predilection for signing aging European guys. So, I mean, it fits. But they're going to be linked to everybody. It doesn't mean it's real. Like, yeah, Beckham played with Marcelo. It would make sense. I think they're friends. Doesn't mean they can make it work. Who else? Willian has been linked to Miami here lately. Sergio Romero had been linked to Miami. That hasn't happened yet. The guy Miami should go get, although I think their center back situation is okay at the moment, is Nicolas Sanchez, who is leaving Monterrey at the end of his deal. He's 35. He's aging, but he was incredible in the CONCACAF Champions League in 2019 when he won it for Monterrey. He would be far more easily adaptable to playing in MLS, even at his age. That's who they should be looking at, but it doesn't get you as excited as a Marcelo or a Willian or whoever. So, anyway. Miami has not been punished as of yet. We don't know if they get these guys, if they'll be able to get them on TAM deals. Hey, Zlatan came on a TAM deal. It was a max TAM deal. He came. Then he got a fat contract the next year. Could they try to swing that? Sure they could. There is a track record of doing it. And there's a track record of them not being punished for doing something more than that when it came to Blaise Matuidi. So we have to wait and see. Ridiculousness. Reports on U.S. men's national team players. Josh Sargent is being linked with a sale from Werder Bremen. They are facing relegation. It's not definite. They are also facing financial issues. That is pretty definite. Spezia is also being linked to people. They have not been linked to Josh Sargent yet, but they are being linked to Haji Wright, who is 23 years old, 12 goals and 2 assists in the Danish league this season. Spezia's owner, as Nick Alifi has told us, has some bank. He is also American, Robert Platek. He was linked with that move to bring in Reggie Cannon from Boa Vista. So, could be some U.S. men's national team players in Europe on the move. Sergio Ramos, his brother and agent Rene, was spotted having lunch with Monchi of Sevilla, according to Spanish reports yesterday. Sergio Ramos started his career at Sevilla, and one tweet about it, Ramos' returning to Sevilla would be fascinating. Discounted by Florentino Perez, he returns home to win over fans that hate him and try to elevate Sevilla to the elite of the elite. They weren't exactly happy when he left Sevilla to go to Real Madrid, and he's been the face of Real Madrid. Would they accept him to come back to Sevilla? That's an interesting one. That's a really, really interesting possibility. Crystal Palace with the news that Roy Hodgson will not be back. Frank Lampard is reportedly in talks with Palace. That is according to TalkSport. Sky Sports is reporting that Eddie Howe, who was expected to be announced at Celtic like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Eddie Howe is high on the list of candidates according to Sky Sports. Steve Cooper is being linked to that as well from Swansea. And Barnsley French manager Valérien Ismail is being linked as a contender. So let me get this straight. Crystal Palace saw that game this week, and they got excited about Swansea and Barnsley, huh? That really makes me sad and angry. And Crystal Palace, please don't subject us to this. Please. Swansea can play a little bit. I know. Tranquilo. But after seeing that,
yeah,
and then having them on your list of candidates to come into Crystal Palace,
yep.
Come on, man.
Uh-huh.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Also talk in Spain about Xavi. Now, there's a lot of debate among folks in Barcelona about, is he ready? Does he have the personality to do it? Does he have the experience? He's got some experience. Personality is a whole different topic. But there's a lot of, is he the right guy? Now, there was some news that came out that's interesting from AS that a few weeks before signing his new deal with Al Sadd, which has a release clause for Barcelona specifically in it, Xavi received an offer from Borussia Dortmund to become their manager for the next 3 years. Now, he said no. He turned that down. But that offer did come, according to AS in Spain, for Dortmund to bring in Xavi. Now, there was another call that the Brazilian Federation wanted to bring Xavi in as the assistant with Tite to be with Brazil through the World Cup in 2022 and then take over as head coach after the World Cup of the Brazilian national team. That was fascinating. AS is reporting it. I mean, who knows if it's true or not, but he rejected both. He has 2 clubs on his list, Al Sadd or Barcelona, and it remains to be seen where he will be next season. Now, another one that I did not see coming, Juventus could have an opening for manager because Andrea Pirlo might not get them into the Champions League. I think if they don't qualify, he's gone. He might be gone anyway. Carlo Ancelotti's name has come up. Ivan Reggiani, who is an agent, said that talk of Ancelotti returning to Juventus has picked up. Sorry, Everton fans. Zinedine Zidane has been the big name attached to that. But Reggiani says it's Ancelotti who Juve is really looking at. He said, in these days in London circles, the rumor is circulating strongly that in Turin there could be the great return of Carlo Ancelotti. There are great possibilities. The hypothesis is being examined by the Juventus club. Juve must be rebuilt, and Ancelotti could be the right name to do that. That'd be wild. It'd be tough for him to say no. You know, it's a club that means a lot to him. It'd be tough for him to say no. That would be horrible for Everton because I feel like they're heading in the right direction. But Turner Kirby says, "What are the odds for Palace buying Jose away from Roma? Nil, none, not happening. That'd be hilarious, but no." The Harry Kane situation, Dan. I think Tottenham should sell, and they should sell as soon as possible because I don't think he's going to stay. I don't think they will. I sadly think they're going to try to make this linger on. They're going to try to wear him down. It's going to linger past the Euros. And by the time they actually feel like they're forced into selling, they're not going to have the time to actually reload, and they're going to waste another season. If they were smart and proactive, they would make one more attempt to keep him, say, what is it going to take? If they can do it, then do it. I don't think they can. I think he's ready to go. Okay. Get the most money you can. Bring that into the bank accounts now. And then hire your manager knowing that they will have that money to work with. That is what I think the right approach is for Tottenham. I don't think they do that, though. I think they try to fight this.
Couple of odds and ends that have just popped up. NBC has announced their soccer announcers for the Olympics in Tokyo.
Okay.
Arlo White, Julie Foudy, Marissa Pilla are going to call U.S. women's matches on the gold medal game from Tokyo. Play-by-play voices include Lisa Byington, Mark Followell, Jen Hildreth, and Derek Ray. Analysts Robbie Earl, Robbie Musto, Tim Howard, Angela Huckless, Lori Lindsay, and Danielle Slayton. And from Jeff Kassouf, the women's ICC schedule was announced for August 18 through 21 in Portland. It is Thorns versus Dash, Barcelona, and Lyon, and then they have the final and third place games on the 21st. It will be on the four-letter in English and Spanish. The company has plans to expand the women's ICC to 6 clubs in 2022 and to 8 in 2023.
Okay. I'd love to see FIFA actually work with the ICC and others to make that into a at least starting point for a Club World Cup on the women's side.
Yeah.
If you already got somebody essentially doing that, it's not exactly a Club World Cup. Work with the ICC to do it rather than going try to do something on your own that they probably won't put enough resources to. I'd love to see them expand that. But I'm glad ICC is working to expand it. I hope they put the stature to it with a Club World Cup side of things. Soccer 8s, welcome. I think you are new to the SDH family. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining into the conversation. He says that Palace's chairman is quite a savvy guy. I think he'll bring in a good appointment in after the De Boer debacle. I hope so. If you're looking at Barnsley, I'm not a fan of that potential appointment. Lampard makes a lot of sense. He does. And if they give him the time to grow, because he needs the time to grow as a manager, that makes a lot of sense. I don't have a problem with that one at all. I think Frank Lampard did a really good job to get Chelsea into the Champions League this year. Last season. I think he did a very, very good job for that. I think the job became too big for him, and he struggled. He's got work to do to become a better manager. But I think Palace is the kind of club that can give him that ability to do it. And he did a good job with young players. So I think that makes a lot of sense for Palace. It makes a whole lot more sense than Barnsley, the Barnsley manager. I am not a fan. Sean Vergara says, do you think Bielsa stays at Leeds? I do, but for not a whole lot longer. Jason Nick says 2 to 3 years. I don't think that's it at all. I think he signs another year to year, and he might do one more year.
Yeah,
I do think he stays for one more year. I think he'd love to get them into Europe. If he does, that could potentially be the hook for him to do it. He's been in Europe before. It's not like he hasn't been in European competition. But if he gets them there, he might do one more year to see what he can do in a European competition with Leeds. I think it's one more year, but I don't think he signs a 2 to 3 year deal. No way. He never does that. Never does that. It's always year to year.
Yeah. And so I think he takes it a year at a time. And if in his mind there are still things that he can accomplish there, it'll be a year, and so on. It will not be a multi-year deal.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Ismail, the Barnsley manager who is being linked possibly to Palace, was the one who was kicked out of Lusk in Austria for training during the lockdown. They had a points deduction. That's how Jesse Marsch won the first title with Red Bull Salzburg in year one there. So interesting. I don't see him at Palace. I think that'd be a bad situation. I don't know if Juve can afford to get Ancelotti out of the Everton deal, Socrates. That'd be another element to this. The appeal of going back would maybe help mitigate some of the cost, but I don't know what the cost would be to get him out of the Everton deal. Maybe he takes a little bit less money. I don't know. It sounded like there's been some disappointment on his end at Everton, so maybe he would be looking for that. I don't know. I'd hate it for Everton because I think they're heading in the right direction. I thought they might be a little bit further along this year, but inconsistency kind of hurt them. Sheath says, I think Carlo wants to be in this Everton project. Don't see him leaving. Juve's Nick says Roma and Milan are the only clubs in Italy Carlo would have a problem saying no to, and I don't think Juve can afford any release clause right now. We'll have to see. The ESPN announcers for the Euros are out as well. Ricky lets us know. That was posted yesterday. Friend of the show, Derek Ray, is going to be on matches. Looking forward to hearing Derek again on those games. He's great on those. Soccer-rates. My bad.
Socrates.
I see. It looked like Soccer-rates. It's not Socrates, the legendary Brazilian player, which is what I was looking at. So, Socrates is where we'll go with. Sorry about that. Sorry about the mispronunciation. Sean, we did talk about Lisandro Lopez. I mean, the most important thing is his family. It's absolutely the most important thing. It's a supplemental roster spot with a very low salary attached to it. There's not a lot of options to fill that, although you have an option now to fill it if you want. You have an international slot you could fill. That's maybe the more valuable part of this right now. But I don't know if you have to rush into anything. It gives you a little more flexibility for the summer window, and now you can plan for that, is where I think it stands. Okay, we are done for today because John and I have a match to call. We will be on the call for Atlanta United 2 tonight, ESPN Plus in the U.S. If you're watching from overseas and you want to watch Atlanta United's reserve team, very late night tonight for you. I think it's on YouTube internationally, and you can watch it there. But in the States, you are watching on ESPN Plus, 7:30 from the Fraction, Fifth Third Bank Stadium in Kennesaw, Georgia. Expecting to see some first-team players in the field tonight, and I'm expecting to see a good match because Tulsa, even though they can defend and counter and be dangerous playing that way, they do like to play, as Tony Annan said. Michael Encian has a good group that is 3-0. They've been really good defensively. They've only conceded 6 shots on target all season out of 3 matches. So a very strong team, a very veteran-laden team. It'll be a really good test for the Twos, who've played well this season. Played very well this season and showed a lot of grit getting a result in Oklahoma City on the weekend. Oklahoma City, by the way, after a win and a draw for the Twos against Oklahoma City, they are now having a town hall, basically, with the coaching staff and the front office for the fans. That the letter to the supporters said, "We see and hear your frustrations. The results are unacceptable, and no one is happy with where we are today." The Twos have broken the OKC energy is basically where we're at, and now they have to have a meeting to discuss it. FC Tulsa is who we will see tonight. They beat the energy as well. So it'll be a good test in the division for the Twos this evening. 7:30 is the start time for the broadcast. 7:36 is your kickoff if you're going to be attending at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We will have our friend Nico Moreno on tomorrow as well from Pulso Sports to talk Atlanta and Seattle. And we'll catch up on all the other madness as silly season continues to ramp up and everything else continues to spin. So thanks for hanging out today, and we will be back tomorrow, and we'll be with you tonight on ESPN Plus. Much plot, y'all.
Much plot, y'all.